What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode and live stream of Let's Get Nuts here on the Ben Thomas Show. Thanks for coming back. Guys, last week we got our whole video struck. It was gone. It was banned from YouTube. So anybody hoping to find last week's Let's Get Nuts, if you were here for it, you saw it live. If not, it's gone to the wind. But today's show is going to be awesome. I've got some great panelists with me. We're going to talk a lot of Hot Toys news, especially a little less entertainment news than normal, to be honest, because we got lots of stuff that we want to talk about. We're also going to talk about Inart and, of course, Mars Toys making another showing of something that I'm really excited to talk about with these guys. So guys, of course, with that, stick around. If you like the video, hit the like button, smash the subscribe if you're new to the Ben Thomas Show, and of course, let's get nuts.
What are you doing? You're completely outnumbered here. Are you nuts? You want to get nuts? You want to get nuts?
You want to get nuts?
You want to get nuts? You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts. Let's get nuts.
So let's bring in our first panelist of the day. He's only been on Let's Get Nuts one time so far in the history of Let's Get Nuts. This is now technically our 44th episode. So we're climbing in the ranks here, of course. And I gotta bring him out. We got Louis from Pop Culture Relics back with us again. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for popping back in.
Thank you for having me. 1 out of 44. I like my odds.
There you go. This is now 2. You're good. You're on the 44th stretch, so that's awesome.
Love it.
Good to have you back. I got lots of compliments about your back room, privately, of course, because people were like, who's that Louis guy? Like, I like his room and everything. I'm like, tell him yourself. So, but lots of compliments coming your way for sure, dude. So
please do. Whatever you guys want to know, let me know. I'm open book, so happy to help any way that I can. Thank you.
Okay. Heck yeah, man, and happy to have you back. I've been following your channel a little bit closer. There's so many cool channels to check out, but especially some of the pieces that you've got in your collection that I couldn't see on live stream, but you've given us a little bit closer up of a view. Very cool stuff. So keep on bringing the content, man. Something for us all to watch.
I will. I know it's crickets on the channel right now, but I've got my buddy Philly Figurecraft who will be coming over soon and hooking me up with his amazing cinematic style. Kind of showroom type show off video. So hopefully we'll get that going soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our next panelist here, I bring him in usually when it's a heavy Star Wars sheet, to be honest, because he can help me kind of keep the facts all straight, of course. We've got Mr. Chris, Vintage Rebellion podcast, in the house with us again. Good to see you, buddy. How's it going?
Hey man, it's going good. You had some fun topics this week, and I'm here for it, man. Happy to be here.
I always love when you put up your hand in the chat. You're like, yeah, I can be there for that. And a Timmy Hose in the house.
Gigantic Timmy Hortons right here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Is that one of those reusable ones, or is that
no?
Like...
No, it's the real deal. But yeah, Louis' background's insane. I have lots of questions. I'll save them for later.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Feel free to fit them in wherever we're getting nuts. You just add that question in. That's awesome. Of course, last but not least today, somebody who graces our presence every once in a while with his stoicness, his kind heart, his great thoughtful takes. We got Mr. Jay Feezy from Feezy's Figures back in the house with us again. Good to see you, buddy. How's it going?
Hey, good to see you, as well as Louis again. And Chris, good to stream with you again. I think this is our second time streaming. And of course, all the chat, the lovely chat. Hope you're all having a good Sunday, good weekend so far. I know it's been a minute for me since I've been on here, so it's good to be back. But yeah, Louis, good to finally stream with you. I know we met at CaliCon, so genuine nice person, and I third the collection there, man. Oh, awesomeness! When I grow up, I want to have a collection just like that, man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing Chris's questions. And speaking of Chris, I just got everyone shout out Chris, Vintage Rebellion podcast. I finished listening to the Roger Christian interview. Oh man, if you guys haven't listened to that and you're a fan of Star Wars, go listen to that, check that out. You know, Roger, if you're a fan of not only Star Wars, but just, you know, behind the scenes, things that go on that you don't know about, and just interesting, you know, how it's made type of stuff. It was a really good interview. Of course, he also worked on Alien that I learned, and yeah, good stuff on that, man. So applause. Yeah, if you haven't checked out his interview with that, him and Andy, I believe it was, right? On Vintage Rebellion podcast.
Yeah, well, hey man, there's there's one on Vintage Rebellion, and the new one is on another podcast called Knights of Vader podcast. But
Okay.
yeah, it's just like it's crazy that guy's a living legend. It's amazing that he has the time of day for guys like us. So
That was
please,
awesome, yeah.
Yeah, man, check that out if you got time. It's Knights of Vader podcast is the new interview with Roger Christian.
Okay. Yeah.
I
awesome.
love listening to that kind of stuff in the car, like on the
Yeah.
on the way to like different estimates or job sites that I got to go to, because it's nice to fill in something a little different. Like I listen to figure news and release announcements and stuff like so much. So whenever I can add kind of sprinkling in of something else that's still nostalgic and cool, but a little different.
Oh yeah,
it's
and
appreciated.
Just because I forget that not everyone's as like insane as me. If you don't know who that is off the top of your head, he designed all the main weapons in Star Wars, and he's second unit directed Return of the Jedi and the Phantom Menace. So, he's a legend. Anyways.
Yeah.
Feel free to hit the nut button in the channel here, guys, or in the chat. If you guys are channel members, crush that nut button. You'll love to see it. Guys, we have a huge show today, so I definitely want to get started here with our warm-up entertainment news topic of the day. And I don't know if this is 100% confirmed yet. I just like putting it in there because I think it's kind of a fun thought exercise anyways. Screen Rant has given us a reporting here that the Jar Jar Binks actor's Ahmed Best reveals that he wants to do a John Wick style movie in his Jedi Keller and Beck kind of outfit, I guess, in his persona. 2 hours of lightsabers and people in the way, which makes me laugh aggressively because, like, I was thinking about a Wolverine game I used to play on the PlayStation 3, and that game was awesome. It was actually based on the movie Wolverine Origins. Not a great film, but the game itself was so much fun, just slicing through people as Wolverine, because, I mean, he's got adamantium claws. And I've always thought, with regards to lightsabers, that it's kind of shocking that there's not more blood and gore, just because of their ability to just, well, I mean, I watched Phantom Menace the other night again recently, and you see, Qui-Gon Jinn, like, sticking his lightsaber through that steel door and melting it. Like, how is there not severed limbs all over the place in Star Wars? So this is something I 100% would support, and this actor is kind of, tragically known as having kind of a pretty bad time after his persona of Jar Jar Binks. He really got, kind of roasted by that, and it's only been over the last couple of years that he's kind of come back into the public eye. So it was already awesome to see him back as kind of this Jedi in his, his human form. Be cool to see him as a like a John Wick style movie. But Chris, you're a huge Star Wars fan, so tell me what your thoughts are on them kind of moving away a little bit from kind of the PG aspect of Star Wars, I want to say, and into a more bloody visual kind of iconography.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry you asked me first, Ben. Let's start out with
okay.
that. But basically, I think Keller and Beck is one of the worst characters like in all of Star Wars. I definitely don't think he needs his own show or movie like John Wick. I think that this is a non-story because some quote unquote journalist caught him at a press junket and said, "Hey, didn't you have a great time being a Jedi in that one episode? Wouldn't you like to do more of that?" And there's only one response to a question like that. Of course, I'll do more of that if they'd have me. That'd be great. But when you watch, I don't even know, is it in the Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian season 3 that this whole sequence happens? I can't remember. But
Mandalorian season 3, I think.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you don't know that he's Ahmed Best as an audience member, that sequence puts a lot of undue importance on this character that may never be paid off, and it's not narratively relevant in my opinion, because it's how does it tie back to this Mandalorian / Grogu story in any way other than that he made it out of the temple in some nondescript fashion. So I think Ahmed Best is really missing the trick here, because what would really be awesome if you want to get him back in the fold, give him something narratively interesting to do. Jar Jar needs a redemption story, bro. He voted in Palpatine himself. Jar Jar's literally at fault for the Emperor getting into power. Personally did it. If you don't remember that, it's in episode 2 or 3, I forget. He votes Palpatine in. He starts the process there. And, in canon, Jar Jar is actually a street performer on Naboo, and he's broke in the time of the sequel trilogy. So maybe in Rey's movie, she needs to get herself a buddy off the streets to redeem himself for voting Palpatine into power.
That was a perfect first answer. I'm totally okay with the fact that I went to you first. That's so funny. I did not expect such a passionate response. To be honest, I was just like, man, this just sounds cool hearing Jedi slicing through people and severed limbs. But
It's not
at the
the
same
Jedi
time,
way.
at the same time, that is fair. That is fair. And I do have to remember that, of course, while I love Star Wars, I absolutely love it. I definitely don't have the same fan base and packed full knowledge like so many of us have, or so many out there have. So I could also understand why this would frustrate people more than it's exciting, right? And that's a great take on that for sure. Jay, what do you think about a kind of a John Wick style Star Wars film? Is that something you'd be in for? Do you agree with Chris now more that you've heard his point and take? What are your thoughts there?
I was actually looking forward to Chris being on the show for reasons like that, for sharing his thoughts on that. But despite that, I'm gonna have to counter that. I'm more in general open-minded to media of all forms, right? Because sometimes some of the best media we get are a mixture of genres, whether that be music, TV shows, movies, obviously art itself in the literal sense. So, sometimes there's a good idea, but there's not always it's not always executed well, right? So we've seen examples of that in multiple times. The first mixing of genres that I can think of non-Star Wars is Marvel, right? I personally liked Multiverse of Madness because of the mixture of horror elements in it with Marvel and action scenes in it. So I personally like that. So in this sense, I'd be open to it. Now, whether they can actually execute it properly and it's written well, I don't know. That's to be seen. So if that were to go through, I know he's just saying he wants it to happen, but I'd be open to it. I don't know what would start off, maybe mimic the first John Wick, and they would kill his loath cat and his speeder bike or something like that, destroy that, and he'd just get pissed off. I don't know. No, but I'd definitely be open to it. Yeah, I'm in general, I'm open to any of these ideas, because who knows? Sometimes they may be good, and they may spawn other ideas. We'll see.
Well, and it's interesting. Great thoughts there too, because it did make me think of that as well in terms of is John Wick style of film almost a trigger word for people? Well, the first John Wick that you mentioned, for example, almost nobody went and saw that movie when it came out, because Keanu Reeves, his career wasn't doing the greatest at that point. It was kind of just it looked like a kind of a spy thriller movie, but it was whatever, I'll catch it later. And then it ended up being an amazing film which spawned all these others. And now it's almost more of the concept that people are applying to other films now, right? The newest Monkey Man film, I've heard that kind of compared to a John Wick style. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard good things, mixed reviews either way. But still, is the John Wick style almost a detraction from people wanting to be excited about this, because they don't want that to impact Star Wars? What did you think of something there?
Yeah, I was to add on that. We're both gamers. I know we both are big, and we messaged each other about that. So, when GTA came out, right, open world sandbox, and from that point on, I'm pretty sure that was a big success hit that inspired other games to then take that kind of type of open world sandbox type of formula and apply it to other games. And you and I are big fans of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, right? So it's kind of in that sense, with games, taking an idea and borrowing it and using it to apply and mix with other types of games and genres. So that just popped in my head when you said that. So good call.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because of games, and specifically because I would have liked to see a Mandalorian video game next, as opposed to necessarily even a movie, a continuation of the story, but you actually get to be the Mandalorian and kind of go off on his quests and missions. I think that would have been really cool.
Ben, they made that and canceled it last minute, right?
I didn't know that.
Just so you feel better.
That's horrible. That's horrible. Louis, what do you think about a John Wick style Star Wars film? Do you think that the John Wick style is kind of infiltrating films nowadays, or is it something that you're kind of excited about, something that you think would be cool?
I mean, I personally think it's, don't hate me for this, nothing against John Wick, but I think it should be left as very niche and not so much be a fad. Star Wars started off cinematically amazing, storytelling on point. You didn't need anything crazy other than the studio skills, essentially, and the technology that was well ahead of its time. And we got the prequels, which everyone was complaining about all eye candy. We don't need any fancy moves or crazy things to add on top of that. They tried that, I think, with Book of Boba Fett with that little moped chase. They're just adding too much. So
Fair.
if they just kind of pace it, go back to its identity, for me personally, I'd be all for that. I know Kellerman Beck actually started in the kids show, the Jedi Temple Challenge, I think. They kept his same Jedi Master storyline, and then they brought him into, Mando. So I think he got his 15 minutes of fame trying to redeem himself from that kid show. Then they got him in Mando. So I think, as great as it would be to kind of see him come back, I think that may be it. Who wouldn't want to get their own series or spin-off having a past like that? But I think that could be the end, at least him being a major character. I don't see it personally, but Jar Jar is coming back in the new Lego special where everything's flipped backwards.
Yeah.
So kind of a what if type scenario, and he's seems to be like a Sith master. So maybe they'll bring him back, voice him, and that's it, right? So
I mean, at least he's not an
which I'm
inside
excited
Jar
for.
Jar. Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
Ben, I don't
yes.
I don't know if you covered it, but like maybe a month or two ago, maybe a little over a month ago, Ahmed Best posted that he was doing some Jar Jar mocap. I don't know if it was for that Lego game or a different game, but I think it was EA was tagged on it.
Yeah, I can't. I remember seeing it. I don't remember if we talked about it on the show, but either way, that does prompt me to say I would like to see Jar Jar, at least in Hot Toys form. After I rewatched Phantom Menace the other day, and I had fun with it. I had fun with the character. Like, he's silly for that movie, but I mean, that was kind of the point for me as I looked it back. I think I was about 10 years old or 11 years old when that movie came out. So clearly it hit home at that point, right? So, but guys, let us know in the chat, what are your thoughts on a John Wick style Star Wars film? Is that something you'd be interested in? I don't know about you guys, but like Louis said, nothing screams cool than riding a moped. So you never know. Maybe he'll ride a moped and chop people in half. See how that goes. Guys, we're going to check in with the chat here in just a moment because I got one more warm-up topic that I wanted to, talk to you guys a little bit about. Nicolas Cage is a crazy, crazy man. And honestly, he's had my support for a little while, for a pretty long time, actually. There's been some really horrible movies that Nicolas Cage has been in, let's be honest. But I would say that Nicolas Cage putting up his hand to say he'd be interested in doing a live-action Spider-Man noir film does get me a little excited, I'm not going to lie. I usually will watch a Nicolas Cage movie as a way to just eat some popcorn, sit back on the couch, know you're going to have some kind of uncomfortable laughs, probably, but also most of the time, I think, enjoy yourself overall. I actually really liked his Ghost Rider film back in the day, the first one anyways, and I really, really liked him in Kick-Ass as the I can't remember what his name was. Big Daddy, I think, was the character.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
I loved that portrayal. And so I'm on board with this as a casting. Now, of course, Madam Web came out not too long ago. And I saw that film. I don't think it was as bad as everybody said. Some people are saying it's like the worst movie of all time. It wasn't, but it wasn't great either. Hopefully Sony has better writers for this one in particular, because even Nick Cage can't save bad writing. So Jay, what are your thoughts on Nicolas Cage coming in as a live action Spider-Man noir?
I'd be open to it. So I'm wondering is it confirmed that he's actually going to be like physically in the suit, or is just voicing it? Did they say?
I don't know if he's actually physically in the suit.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I was gonna say he's up there in age, right? So I mean, I don't know if he'd be able to move as good. So it'd probably work better if he just did the voice, kind of, like more for entertainment. But he's been doing some interesting artsy films recently. So I wonder if that'll kind of translate, and they're gonna kind of have him do his animated type of, all over the place type of improv or something. I don't know, but yeah, I'm open to this. I agree with you. I was in the boat with Madam Web that it was okay. I didn't think it was great, but I personally didn't think it was as bad as everyone else said it was either. So I'm open to this and looking to see how it translates. Especially again with the noir aspect, I can already see them kind of probably doing some scenes maybe like all totally in black and white, maybe highlighting certain things in color, like they've done like kind of like a Sin City type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. That'd be cool.
That'd be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that type of stuff. But yeah. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think he can do it.
And I think that, like, at least this kind of teaser image of the suit, like, it remains to be seen if this will be a final, but, like, it's still kind of cool looking. I could see this
Yeah.
in figure form on the shelf, too, with some of the other Spider-Man that I have, if it's a cool movie, especially. Lewis, what do you think of Spider-Man Noir here and Nick Cage involvement in that? Is that something you'd get kind of excited about, or are you just not a Nick Cage fan? I don't even know where you sit on that one, good sir.
No, I like Nick Cage. I'm old school Nick Cage. Face Off, I think, was one of his best movies to me personally, and I'd be down. He's got a pretty iconic voice, very recognizable, and if it's just his voice, then for sure, I'm down. I think Lord and Miller was recently announced that they were going to take over Sony's Spider-Man, I think, TV and movie division.
Oh, nice.
So if they can do 10% of what they did for, the Spider-Verse cartoons, but make it live action, then I think it should be really good. I think Sony's finally realized, like, what we've been doing is not working, so let's just let them handle it, which would be amazing if they
Would
can.
definitely be amazing. Definitely
Yeah.
amazing. And I mean, Sony Venom 3 is on the way, I think, as well, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see. Like, I do kind of want that to be good. I was disappointed by Let There Be Carnage, I'm
Mhm.
not going to lie, which was devastating
Same.
because Carnage
Yeah.
is one of my favorite villains as
Yeah.
well in Spider-Man verse. And I have all the Maximum Carnage comics, and I loved those books, the art style, the story was
Nice.
awesome. And you said Face Off was one of your favorite Nick Cage films there, good sir?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Heck
I
yeah,
like
this is,
Face
this
Off
is
a
for you
lot.
then. This is for
I'd
you
like to take his face off.
then. That's for you.
Off.
I love it. Thank you. I think that's probably the one scene that people remember from Face Off, and then
Yeah.
him just going crazy
Yeah,
with
that's
the
right.
crazy eyes.
That and the I want to suck your tongue one.
Yeah.
That was like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying that to you, by the way, specifically, Lewis. Nobody needs to
All right.
screencast
Hey,
that,
hey,
okay?
you know
Jesus
what?
Christ.
Yeah.
Once it's on the
Stream
internet,
after
it's on
hours.
there forever. You know?
Yeah.
It's the after hours stream.
Yeah.
Invite only.
Chris, what's your favorite Nicolas Cage film, and would you be down to check out a Spider-Man Noir film with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do this where you never see him out of the costume, and it's all like voiceover, internal monologue, and it would be fun as hell. But the weird thing is, like, I don't know what my faith is in like Ben Thomas, like fact checking images. Like, I don't know if this is AI art or if I'm looking at a real production still or not here. But you'll never know for the rest of human existence. So you got to check your sources, man. But
That's why I called it "Let's Get Nuts" for a reason, okay? Because if it's not a real image, I'm like, we were getting nuts. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, like those Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn buckets, like that looked real until I realized a studio would never allow that to exist. You know what I mean? So it's like I believed it, even though it's Deadpool, like that's definitely not real. But like this, you could see one of those turning out a picture like this, but it looks fun. So I mean, I think I think you could do it without ever even seeing him out of costume, and it would be hilarious.
Heck yeah, dude. I totally agree. Although that Dune bucket did get made, and it's a pretty like sexual looking box or bin. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you never know. You never know. And we were speculating a couple Let's Get Nuts shows back on what Deadpool could make as his own popcorn bucket. So that still remains to be seen. But guys, I feel warmed up now. Let's say hi to the chat and our Tough Nut crew members. We've got Alvin J collecting weekly money, Mendez, 6 Scale Mafia, Katera, Feezy's Figures, King Dingaling, Sith Scale Collector, Paul Schreiber, The Batman, The Movie Canon, 1/6 Figure Focus, SpongeBob SquareBalls, The _ Empire Strikes, Peter Cass, Ryan Smith, Collector Joey, Sam Gist, 14 Wellington, Jose G. Hernandez, 12-inch Moose Stream, Collection Obsession, Blur Dad Life, Danny Spotchka, Rachel Miller, Honest Hansel, Action in the Box, Figurecraft, Neil Horrific, Action Figure Academy, X-Men Supreme, Don Matan, Kenneth Jacobson, Cylon, Adrian Cervantes, Christian Cooper, Eclectic Collector, Casual Nerd Problems, Akira, JB, Your Majesty 3, Justin, Low-Key Collector, TX Boy 210, Razgard, Valkyrie, Magnus, and Alex Serrato. Wow, that's a lot of names to read. But guys, I thank you so much for the generosity here on the channel. The channel did cross 5,000 subscribers a couple days ago, and crazy enough, it's exploding a little bit and it's doing well. So I'm looking at doing kind of a 5 and 6K if we get there. Giveaway here soon for both members. We'll do another duck race, as well as for just the viewership, the people who subscribe, who tune in to the Let's Get Nuts show. So stay tuned. We're going to be announcing another giveaway some point here in the next 2 weeks, once we're officially over that 6K subscriber line. But of course, let's say hi to the chat, because we got 40 people watching live, getting nuts with us here today. I love your faces. Thanks for being here. Let's say hi to you guys.
Is that everyone? I keep wanting more.
Nuts!
Assemble.
We've got Noble Young in the chat with us here. We've got Mr. Bob Dylan himself. Good to see you back here. He says, I'm confused about the Ghost Rider. The same account claiming Norman Reedus was being cast also claimed Ryan Gosling was chosen. Probably all rumors instead of this multiverse situation. We are going to talk about that next, good sir, so stay tuned. We got OG Fan when Star Wars was just Star Wars says, hello, let's get nuts. Good to see you, buddy. We got Evil Sneaker out there cutting his grass. He says, hey, all, going to be listening while I mow my lawn. Good to hear from you either way, buddy. Thanks for popping in the chat. Make sure you guys check out Sneak Peek there as well over on Evil Sneaker's channel. It's been a really, really enjoyable live stream to watch. Valkyrie Magnus, one of our channel members in the chat with us, says, all right, guys, let's get nuts. You love to see it here. We got 12-inch Moose Stream in the chat with us. He says, why is it gone? Hello, community of collectors. We got JP in the chat. Let's get macadamia. You'll love to see it. We got Darth Tamaris in the chat with us as well. Hey, buddy. Good to see you here. We got Ryan Dean in the chat with us. Always joining in, especially for that entertainment news side. He says, hey, Ben and chat. Hope everyone is enjoying the weekend. We got Community Arcade in the chat here with us as well. We got Feeling Nutty and Hello Friends. You love to see it. We got Avengers Assemble. Can you show us around really quick? That's probably directed at you, Lewis. Maybe. I'm not too sure. Maybe all of us, because we all got some pretty crazy stuff behind us here. We got Batman_collectible says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Good to see you here. We got Figurecraft in the chat with us as well, who is, of course, the awesome dude who introduced us to Louis. So happy to have you here in the chat with us, buddy. He says, good day to all of you wonderful collectors and awesome panel. You as well, my friend. Jose G. Hernandez with us in the chat as well. Jose Plus. There's still some yard work for Jose, so he may or may not be in the chat with us long, but you hate to see it. Love you, buddy. Just totally kidding. We got Pop Culture Relics himself in the chat with us as well. We got Mr. Mark P with us. Good to see you, buddy. He says, sup collectors, happy long weekend. Heck yeah. I am happy I do not have to work tomorrow. We got Mr. Classy Thomas, SpongeBob Square Balls in the chat with us. Good to see you, buddy.
Classy.
Yeah, Classy said today, he's like, there's a lot of Star Wars news. He's like, I'd be happy to just watch from the sidelines and be in the chat. I was like, heck yeah, man. Always happy to have you here. And he's classing up the chat, so that's all good. We got Collector Joey in the chat with us here. He says, afternoon. Good to see you, buddy. Hopefully you're moving and everything is going really smoothly, of course. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody, guys. Bear with me. We got Thalia Meyer in the chat. Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Good to see you, buddy. We got Mitchell Lawrence in the chat here as well, with our correction fans. That must have been with regards to something else. Apologies. Says, fickle Star Wars fan, gave him hell to past fictional character. It's great to see him finally getting the recognition he deserves. That's true. That's going with regards to Ahmed Best there, I'm sure. Christian Cooper, one of our channel members in the chat, he says, what's good, guys? Good to see you, buddy. And we've got Sith Scale Collector himself here as well. What's up, collectors? With a nut buster. And Draw the Line 35 says, I'd also rather see a solo animated Spider Noir film or movie than live action. I could see that. Honestly, some of the animated ones have been amazing. So valid point there. Kitty Pridle's The Best X-Men. That's a new screen name that I haven't seen before, but happy to have you here with us. Really like that screen grab. Says, CFNC are doing a lot of the 1/6 Zelda statues on the company is doing a 1-to-1 Master Sword. I almost bought myself a 1-to-1 Master Sword at Calgary Comic-Con about 2 weeks ago, and I passed on it because I ended up getting the 2-pack Jim Gordon and Blake with Bat Signal set from Hot Toys instead. But it was really hard to make the choice. Happy with what I got, but I do want a Zelda sword in the collection. And if I'm going to get a link, a 1/6 scale link, it has to be, for me at least, from Ocarina of Time. That's my kind of most classic, nostalgic punch in the chest, as I always say. We got Akira in the chat here with us. Hey guys, I'm late. Better late than never, good sir. Appreciate you being here. Feezy's figures himself in the panel and in the chat as well. Love to see it. And of course, Jose is giving me a wow, so I apologize. That was racist, but I love you anyways. It was all with love. I'm just kidding. Let's get on with it here. If you're interested in the Tough Nut membership, guys, the link is in the chat below. I have created a new end credits for the show today. So if you're a channel member, stick around to the end of the show, and I've got some new rolling credits for you guys that feature all of your names on there as well. So hopefully you enjoy that. These are some of the Tough Nut member badges that are currently appearing beside all of the members that are in the chat right now. Become an up-and-comer at the very least if you're interested. And the very, very last piece of housekeeping, these are some of the emojis that we're adding. I talked to Dean the Dream Martin recently here as well, because I am getting him to make me a couple more of these emojis, including some Star Wars related ones. I'd really like to see like a Vader nut, a Spider-Man nut of some sort, and a couple others there. So channel members specifically, I'm taking suggestions from you guys because there's 46 of you. So if there are any badges or emojis you guys would like to see made by Dean the Dream Martin and added into Let's Get Nuts here, let me know in the private chat and I will look at getting some of those made. Guys, last piece of entertainment news before we jump into the 6 scale news, because there's a lot of 6 scale news. This popped up as Norman Reedus will debut as Ghost Rider in Blade, apparently. And I love that they put in bold, apparently, because just like Bob Dylan had mentioned there earlier in the chat, is this really confirmed? I don't think that this is confirmed at all. I get the sense that he probably said in passing, yeah, it'd be totally cool to be a Ghost Rider. Like, I like motorcycles and I like flames, and who doesn't like flaming skeletons and who beat people up and are badass? So who wouldn't want to be a Ghost Rider, right? And it's like news, actor wants to be in movie news, right? Like, is that news? No. But kind of a fun thought exercise, because of the people that I would think about potentially jumping into a Ghost Rider role, he is actually probably one of my top picks. Now, is that because he rides a motorcycle in every show and movie he's ever been in that I can think of? Maybe. And I'm pretty sure they used him in the Days Gone as well, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong there, but also riding a motorcycle. So, great actor. Could definitely play the role. I'd be excited to see just honestly a return of Ghost Rider either way. So, I'd be curious, Jay, do you have a pick for a Ghost Rider? Is there any actor out there that you'd be like, no, I'd rather see him in the role? Or would a Norman Reedus be somebody you'd actually vote for if this ultimately ends up being not fake news?
Yeah, so I did some research on this earlier today, and I found out that Keanu Reeves also said he was interested in possibly playing Ghost Rider, and is most likely because his love for bikes. I believe he's really into motorcycles as well. But no, I agree. Even though I think some people might say, he's basically Norman Reedus is going to play himself. He would be my first pick for Ghost Rider, just because we already associate with always being on a bike. And yeah, I think you're right. In Days Gone, I think his persona was inspired by Norman. The character in Days Gone was inspired by Norman Reedus, but he was actually in Death Stranding, the Hideo Kojima game. And I haven't played that, so I don't know if he rides a bike in there at all. But I think he also had his own solo Walking Dead game, which I haven't played either. So that can kind of go for double, right? If he does in fact play Ghost Rider, which I believe is, like you were saying, still a rumor. But if he does, then they can go straight to video game, and he won't be a stranger to that media form as well. So kind of a win-win there, I think. So it could work. But yeah, this would be my first pick.
Well, we have to be going on at least, I want to say, 15 to 20 years since the last Ghost Rider film. So like even the ability to have like pretty impressive graphics and CGI and all the things now, I would hope anyways, if they had the budget for it, could be pretty awesome and really bring this character to life. Something had also floated out to me, Austin Butler as a potential potential Ghost Rider actor fill-in, and instead of Keanu. And I was like, maybe. And then I watched him in the Elvis movie the other night because it was leaving Netflix soon, apparently. And I watched it, and I kind of liked it. And I liked him as Fade Ralpha in Dune 2.
Dune?
So
yeah.
pretty intense guy. I could see him kind of getting up in criminals' faces as the one that looks into people's souls. But what about you, Chris? Any thoughts on Norman Reedus here as a potential for Ghost Rider, if this is not fake news, and or is there anybody else you'd rather see?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it depends. I guess it's not going to be an origin story, so you don't need the whole like Evil Knievel parody lifestyle at the beginning of the movie, like Nick Cage did to great effect, in my opinion. But Norman Reedus, like you were saying, how people are joking that around that he's going to play himself. Like, funny that you mentioned that Death Stranding game, Feezy, because like on the cover of that, you should look it up. It's real funny. It's Norman Reedus in a spacesuit, but he looks like scruffy Walking Dead post-apocalyptic hobo Norman Reedus, but he's in a space suit. So it's like, it's just like that. He just has that one look, even if he's in the future in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's just like, I don't know if that, I think that he just might be too iconic as scruffy Norman Reedus to be this character. I don't know. But, cause like there's, you know, he has to have a little bit of softness and empathy to him when he interacts with the people he cares about that he can't have a real lifestyle with because he's, you know, the Ghost Rider now. So I don't know if it really works for me. I don't know if I believe it. I think it might be fake news, but because like, look at this, there's a May in the first headline and then apparently in the second part of it, it's probably just not real. And you know, you got your great AI art of Norman Reedus there, but I don't buy it. I think, you know, as Badfish on CW says, we're living in the dark timeline. This movie's probably not even gonna be rated R. Like, what are we? There's already a rated R Ghost Rider movie and rated R Blade movies for you to enjoy. You know, something tells me didn't they shoot this thing and then start over basically already? Good sign.
I don't even know. Yeah, it's not a good sign if that's the case, that's for sure. I don't know why this image also made me think of Spawn. Maybe it's like the really bad like CGI flaming lava at the bottom there. It reminds me of the old like when he's in hell. But I'm like, ooh, a Spawn movie I would really get on board with again if they did that right.
Well, I forget the name of the actor playing Blade, but I think he like
Mahershala Ali.
Like you don't know how true it is, but like there was rumors like during production he was disliking it so much that he was going to quit, and they like rewrote some stuff. Like, I don't, you know, exciting times.
And now he might not get to be Blade because they're waiting so long to actually get him on screen. So we'll see. Luis, what about you, good sir? Is this somebody you could see in a Ghost Rider role? Did you like the old Nick Cage ones? And is there somebody else you'd be interested in seeing make a return back?
Yeah, I think Nick Cage played a good Ghost Rider. I wanted to see a lot more, and I, of course, I wasn't as satisfied with it as I would have liked it, but I mean, I'm always down for another Ghost Rider. The second one with Nick Cage was just terrible, in my opinion, and I barely finished it. So I'd be down for a new Ghost Rider. I think Norman Reedus is great. Loved him in Boondock Saints, of course, and Walking Dead. But yeah, I think he's the same character in everything he plays. So I wouldn't mind him as Ghost Rider, but I think with MCU now kind of going younger, I think they could just cast somebody younger who can carry on and do multiple films while he's doing his Walking Dead thing. I think, you know, he wants to maybe keep that his number one thing unless this goes big. But, you know, I'd be down, but I'm not super stoked, or, you know, if it happens, cool. But, you know,
you made a good point. You made a good point though that kind of resonates with me there. I was thinking about, you know, like when you said, you know, they could cast a young actor and somebody nobody really knows yet, and they could come in and blow it away. Like whenever I ask these questions week over week of like, would you be happy to see this person in the role? And everybody's like, yeah, like, you know, I guess so. Because there's like 10 actors we can all think of off the cuff of our hand. And then after that, it's like we have to actually look them up. But on the other hand, it's like when I think of movies back to like even, I don't know, 2009 Star Trek, where Chris Hemsworth plays James T. Kirk's father who gets killed at the beginning of the film. No spoilers. Before that movie really gets started. And I'd never seen Chris Hemsworth on screen before that point. I was like, who the hell is this guy? But he's awesome. Like, wow. And then he was in Cabin in the Woods. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get to see this guy a little bit more, right? And now Chris Hemsworth is one of the most iconic film names you can think of, and anytime you think of a godlike character like He-Man or Thor or any of those characters, you're like, yeah, Chris Hemsworth would definitely play him. But there's gotta be other actors out there who would fit this role better than the ones we already know. So while I'd be okay with any of the names that we put on the list today, 100%, if they do well and the story's good, heck yeah. I agree. I would also like to see the introduction of fresh blood, potentially into a character like Ghost Rider, who doesn't have to be somebody that everybody recognizes. That could actually be one of the cool aspects of the film. It's just like he's just somebody who exists in our world. But wow, is he powerful. And that could be really cool. But guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments on the video here as well. If you're watching on replay, we have over 50 people getting nuts with us at the moment. Thanks so much for sticking around. We got lots of figure news, guys. So let's get into the next subject. We got Mars Toys dropping a little bit of heat on their Facebook page this week because we have got an updated version. Here, a picture of the 66 Penguin. And we had looked at this probably, I want to say 6 months ago, maybe a little bit sooner than that. And some of the images were just like not great. You know, when we look at the Romero Joker, for example, last year, I think it was actually on Collecting Weekly, like that figure won some pretty awesome awards on the award show for how like amazing the Cesar Romero likeness was on a third party offering. And then, you know, I'm still waiting on the Riddler from, he's not called the Riddler, but from Batman Forever, essentially, from Mars Toys. Excited about him, that kind of Jim Carrey look. The 66 Batman is a little too far removed from me. While I'm old and I'm showing my grays for sure, my brother, surprisingly, who is younger than me, likes Batman 66 more than I do. Like, for me, it really got started in animated series, Batman the Animated Series, and then Keaton, and then The Dark Knight, and the kind of that from there. So while this update looks amazing, it looks, in my opinion, so much more like the actor. Other than some of the coloration of maybe the outfit, that might be the only tweaking I would make based on some of the reference photos. I think this looks almost perfect if you're looking for a 66 Penguin in the collection to go along with some of those other characters that people have been able to get their hands on again. So I was pretty stoked about this. Jay, what are your thoughts on Penguin here?
Right. Yeah, man. This looks good, man. I want to say this. This is kind of too good to be true, to be honest. Like, I think this looks great. It's kind of hard to believe just because, like, kind of looking at the skin texture, and I haven't done a comparison. Oh, is this an actual picture on the right, or is that still a figure? The photo on the right.
On the right, it's an actual person. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. So, damn, this just looks good. And I personally was kind of more. The villains appealed more to me in the Batman 66 and actually than Batman and Robin. So man, yeah, this is gonna be tough for me. I don't have any of the Batman 66 figures, but not even, including the Romero Joker. But I don't know, man. Something about this one just in particular just looks awesome. So I don't know. I'm really, really curious to see how the final comes out. And yeah, this just looks awesome, man.
Definitely. Louis, who's your Batman? And is this something that would come to your collection potentially, depending on how it comes out?
I would say Bale. I grew up, I was an 80s baby, so 89 Batman will always have a special place in my heart with Michael Keaton. But Bale really just killed it for me, in 05. And I was just talking to my buddy, we got the 20th anniversary next year. So maybe we'll get a Batman Begins DX figure. But Bale is my number one. Very close second would be Keaton. 66, never got into it. Nothing bad to say. I like the funny, the kind of whimsical aspect of it. Very iconic and classic characters. But unfortunately, I have nothing 66 Batman. So Mars is stepping up. I think they have done great stuff lately, and they keep doing it and adding more to their figures than what we get with some of the larger companies, of course. So hopefully, they keep doing what they're doing and give a little extra heat to some of these licensed companies, because I feel like it could be anyone's game, essentially. Whoever can get that license, they can step it up that much more. So figure looks great in itself. Obviously it looks like some color inaccuracies, but for the most part, if I was a 66 collector, I would for sure get this, because unfortunately not many makers are out there, and the fact that this looks this good, yeah, it would be in my collection if that was a big focus of mine.
Absolutely. And you mentioned like a good point in my opinion, because I'm curious, how it kind of inspired, with this Batman 66 being a little on the campy side, sometimes a little on the silly side. I think it almost allowed for that dark take that we then got from Keaton later, right? People wanted to see Batman the way that they'd read it in comics, and while there was an element of this for sure in comics, I think that they realized that there could be so much darker of kind of a tone for a character like Batman than what we'd seen, and it kind of opened the door for Keaton. What are your thoughts there, Chris?
Hey man, I can appreciate like some guys of our generation have a hard time like sitting down and putting on some Batman 66 and just like being open to that experience. Ben, I think you need to at least do it with the movie. That's a nice condensed thing. You're not running seasons on.
Does the movie have the shark spray in it? Because I think I saw, yes, then
Okay.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
All right. Well, that does a great job of summarizing the show because you have an appearance from pretty much all the villains, and they spent a little more money. But you have to put yourself in the right headspace for it, right? Like there were serious dramas in the 60s. Not all television was like this. They were like, hey, let's make a show that leans into the fact that it's based on a comic book. Like Batman punches a goon in the face, and you see the sound effect written out on screen and stuff like that, right? And look, it's a kids show, and the guy's got a cigarette in his mouth as he's walking around talking like the Penguin. Make television great again. But like seriously though, like these are like the boiled down like iconic versions of all these villains that they're you're not. I just don't see, unless they do it animated, I don't see them leaning into this sort of style like ever again, right? The Pattinson Batman, and even ever since Bale, it's like, how do we bring this character into the modern day? Maybe the Riddler's a computer hacker, like boring, make him hilarious and like insane and obsessed with nonsense. You know what I mean? And like, I see what you're saying about the hat's a little bit off. I mean, the bow tie, I can't, these are separate images, right? Like the purple on that tie looks exact to me. And like, this is
right.
just pulled from two different sources, right?
100%.
So like, one's fabric and the other's painted. That's probably part of the problem there, but they could work on that. But this looks beautiful to me. And I think anybody who has never experienced Batman 66, the movie's not a bad way to do it.
Well said, good sir. Well said. It's I've seen a couple questions here as well. We got Honest Hansel, one of our channel members in the chat, says Mars Toys hasn't released anything but villains so far from the 66 Batman series. Is that correct? Not totally correct. So Saturn Toys gave us Batman and Robin as well, and of course they're seemingly a division of Mars Toys. So they haven't officially given us the heroes, but they have existed for sure to be able to get your hands on.
Ben, what makes you think there's a connection between those two
Weird.
companies?
Space. Weird. I don't even know. Nobody knows. It's weird. Mars Toys also showed us this week, the Batman Forever version of Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. I'm all over this. I'm with Eddie Money Mendez. Eddie gets a lot of shit for liking Batman Forever, and I don't even care. Stick to your guns, man, if you're watching. If you like Batman Forever, that's cool, because so did I when I was a kid. Tommy Lee Jones, is notorious in his own right. Now, like a lot of kind of the movie news that surrounded this film back in the day was that he absolutely, apparently, allegedly, whatever you want to say, hated Jim Carrey, because Jim Carrey is so freaking over the top as the Riddler. But then as a result, Tommy Lee Jones kind of tried to almost outact Jim Carrey in his craziness. So when you watch the Batman Forever, they're both kind of ridiculous characters. And it's unfortunate because I think that actually detracted from people's enjoyment of the film back then. The character of Two-Face is a really, really cool story just overall. And I feel like Tommy Lee Jones hopefully should have been a better actor to recognize that. But I think back then, Joel Schumacher days, it wasn't as cool to be in a comic book style film, right? It was just probably another payday for the guy. All that being said, I've got the Mars Toys Riddler on the way. I've got the Val Kilmer Batman and Robin, the Throbbing here in behind me. I feel like having the foursome, yes, a lot of sexual references for some reason at this minute mark in the show. I think it would be cool to have. And I think it looks like Tommy Lee Jones. It looks like him in the makeup. I think they've done a great job here. I am going to definitely pick this one up to go along with the display as well. And then to add to this here, they've also shown us some renderings of Catwoman from Batman Returns.
Yes.
Michelle Pfeiffer, of course. Michelle is amazing. She's still a beautiful woman. She was amazing in that role. I loved that Catwoman outfit. So if they give us this is one that I definitely want as well. I had seen people saying, that they had preferences of which sculpt they like based on these renderings. I think the middle one here on the bottom is probably my favorite, kind of that smirk, as well as that battle damaged look. So for me, both of these are absolutely a buy. Lewis, what about you, good sir? Is this something that you'd be interested in? Since you did say you're a Bale guy, but do you have any nostalgia for Batman Forever or Batman Returns with Catwoman here?
100% yes. 92 Batman Returns, loved it. I kept my Batman Returns 2-pack Hot Toy set, so just waiting for the next reissue, of course. So I have an extra rubber suit, lying around. It's a matter of time. But 95 Batman Forever, I still remember my dad taking me to the theaters to see that. And I have the Hot Toys Throbbing set, with both of them.
It's aggressive.
And I'm all for Batman Forever. I skipped out on the Jazz vehicle just because I've got some other vehicles that take precedence. If you haven't noticed behind me, but I'm up for anything Batman Forever. I would love to get an official Two-Face and Riddler, but that ship may have sailed from Hot Toys. I don't know, considering those are still discounted figures on Sideshow. So this would be probably what I would settle for, but I'm just a sucker for licensed items. And with my luck, if I buy it, Hot Toys is going to announce theirs, within months. So I'll wait it out. If I can get it at a steal, great. But I'm going to sit on the sidelines until hopefully something changes. But the Riddler may change that as well. So I prefer Riddler and Jim Carrey, his design, over Two-Face. I think they both killed it, but Jim Carrey, growing up in the 90s, he's my guy. So we'll see.
Interesting thought there, too, with regards to, Hot Toys jumping in. Because, we saw that with the classic Loki, right? For example, where classic Loki from the Loki television show kind of made his appearance in his Kermit the Frog look, and third party was going to make that, and then Hot Toys immediately put out an announcement, nope, we're going to make this one too. And the people like yourself who prefer the licensed versions obviously likely canceled their order and went with the other one, or maybe got both, depending, right? But interesting thought there. I actually would challenge you, though. I think if they were going to do this, they would have already done it by now. Right. I thought we'd already see the Val Kilmer Panther suit, the black suit, which hasn't come. And it's kind of a missed opportunity to have not already at least teased the fact that these may come down the pipeline. I got that figure almost, those two figures a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. I think if it was going to come, they would have told us already. And I'm confident they have their sources out there that look at companies like Mars Toys to see what's coming and determine whether there's enough kind of need for that, right? One of the things that I like about Mars Toys is that the cost is usually a little bit lower because they are unlicensed representations of these characters, which some people support, others don't. I totally understand that. But when you look at other companies that are licensed, like Star Ace, giving us absolute garbage sculpts, in my opinion, and then seeing Mars Toys giving us these, like, I'm happy with it. It almost feels official quality from what I've seen. I saw that Romero Joker in hand. The thing was insanely good. Like, if you told me that was an official release, I wouldn't even question it. But what are your thoughts, Jay, on that thinking anyways? Like, do you think that Hot Toys may actually revisit these villains? What are your thoughts on Two-Face, but also, again, the rendering there of Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah, so first question. I agree. I don't think Hot Toys is going to tackle the villains, because I'm trying to think. I don't think they've done any villains from other than Nicholson Joker from the original Batman, right? From any other movie,
Yeah.
Batman movies, have they? Right. So yeah, I
not
don't
that
think
I
they're
can
going to
think
do any of the other
They did
villains.
Bane.
Yeah, that's
From
true.
the-
Yeah, they
from the
did do
Nolan
Bane.
films.
Yeah, but I meant from like
Two-Face.
the
Oh,
yeah,
older
you're
ones. Gotcha.
yeah, the older ones, Batman through Returns, Forever, Batman and Robin, like those series of movies. But yeah, you're right. They did do the Dark Knight villains. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna touch those. I don't know. I could be wrong. We all know Hot Toys kind of comes out of the park and out of left field with certain things, so they could. Two-Face, I think looks good. The hair looks kind of weird though. But these last two movies weren't my Batman movies. I'm with Lewis in that Batman and Batman Returns. That's my Batman. Those were my Batman movies, and I'm actually getting figures for those. So I got the 2.0 Keaton Batman, the younger one, not the one from the Flash. So I have that on order, and I'm definitely getting this Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman if that does come to fruition. And I did see on a post, I think it was on Instagram that, or maybe it was on Facebook or the Mars Toys group. Someone had put the caption first 4 head sculpts. So I think it's coming with all 4 of these, I believe.
Crazy.
Yeah, because it was with the part of the only caption on there was just 4 head sculpts type of thing. So I don't know if that's actually true or not, but if that is, yeah, I agree. That would be awesome. That would be crazy. But these renderings, obviously they're just renderings, but they still look great. And I'd definitely jump on this and get this one for sure. So yeah, I'm all in on this. The Batman. I'm waiting on the Penguin. So I passed on the first third party one that came out, the Gentleman of Crime, because I think who is it? Mars, I think, also teased a Danny DeVito Penguin. I forget who it was. I could be wrong.
The second one was, but yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
That original one didn't look so great in hand, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I passed on that one, although I'm hearing good things in anticipation of the other third party company, whoever that was, releasing that one. So that'll be my second opportunity to pick that up. So if that comes out, that's the one I'll be getting, and then I think I'll be good. I already have another version, a third party Nicholson Joker on pre-order from M Toys. So I think once I get those, if I get those 3 villains, the Batman, then I'll be good, and I'm set on my Batman figures.
My Nicholson Joker from Hot Toys is still one of the best figure likenesses I have in the collection. Considering the age of that figure, it's wild.
Yeah, it's right here.
Wild. And I wouldn't be totally surprised if we saw him come back. I actually, considering the Batman 89 figure, like the 2.0, I'm hoping that drops any day now. That's one of my most anticipated figures of the year.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I've never had a Keaton Batman in the collection, so I'm
Same.
I'm so excited. And the closer we get to it, the more I've also looked at that modern suit one, being like, I didn't pull the trigger at first. I feel like that's going to be one that I kick myself for not jumping on, but we'll see. We'll see. Chris, what are your thoughts here on Catwoman? Would you force her to swallow a bird? And would you also be interested in the Two-Face here? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little more on the Tim Burton side of the fence for these movies. They're fun, but I don't find myself going back to them the same way I do the first 2 films. So yeah, the Michelle Pfeiffer is awesome. I don't know what's going on with that head sculpt will be interesting if that's it. It looks like with sculpted hair pieces sticking out like that. Be careful with that thing if you get it. But
true, good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if there was other damage to the costume. I guess that's when she fell off a building or something after Penguin chucked an umbrella on her or something. Can't remember exactly, but I don't know if the whole costume got damaged or just that part. But it's a great movie, and if they do a Danny DeVito Penguin, that's gonna be hilarious, because that's one of those things where it's probably you got to start from scratch. The body is so weird because it's Danny DeVito's real short, and then he had the craziest fat suit ever for that movie.
He did, yeah.
So that didn't even respond to human proportions in any way, shape, or form. And he has not got hands either, keep in mind. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. So I'm almost more interested to see how they would tackle that. But I think this will be really cool, and I would be passing on the Tommy Lee Jones.
It's interesting you mentioned the hands piece too, because I had heard another streamer talking about the Loki recently that came out. Yeah, right, the fin hands. The Loki that had came out not too long ago, right? The God Loki, and how he's got sandals on, and it's one of the first figures that you'll ever actually see like the heel portion of a figure on. I'll be curious to see how they, how that kind of comes out, what that looks like in person. Danny DeVito would be crazy. Like just in the collection in general, like that Penguin version. I would love to see that. I don't know if this is from when she falls from the truck or when at the end when she like puts like kills
right.
Max and electrocutes herself.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure because similar hair in that scene as well from my recollection, but it's been a little while since I've seen it. For some reason, Batman Returns reminds me of Christmas. I used to watch that movie at Christmas time, and it also really reminds me of Miss Vicky's salt and vinegar chips for some reason. I must have just had that as a snack every time I watch this movie.
It has one of the greatest tree lighting scenes of all time. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With the bats that come out.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Great thoughts on that, guys. Thank you so much. We've got almost 60 people watching live. Welcome to Let's Get Nuts if you're just joining in. If you guys can, I keep forgetting to ask in all the previous shows, if you don't mind hitting the like button if you're enjoying the content, definitely just helps get this out to other people who might not be seeing it live. That would definitely be very, very appreciated, especially if you're enjoying the show. But guys, let's move on to the next topic here because Hot Toys has given us an update. Now, at first I thought, oh man, this is releasing. That's awesome. And then I realized it's actually not a release image yet. There's a couple of images that we're going to go through, but actually an update with regards to the Batman Armory set. And it's interesting because the DX12 is technically the first Batman I ever kept in my collection. And it was the first figure I really had like unboxed and really enjoyed the unboxing of. And I remember pulling out the DX12 Batman and looking at it. And keep in mind, this is before I knew anybody in Hot Toys, before I had any friends that did this kind of collecting. And I looked at that DX12 and thought to myself, they will never make another Batman that's as good as this in figure form. Oh my God. It's art. It's amazing. It's like holding a miniature Christian Bale in my hands. And that was the DX12. And now they've given us several versions since then, including the Armory, 2 Armories, the DX19 that you see here on the right-hand side, which is now being compared to this newest Armory set, that second one that's coming out. And I gotta admit, I saw the photos and I was like, man, I didn't think that they could improve it all that much more. But I really like what they are showing us here. We'll scroll through a little bit. I definitely see the improvement on the cowl. I like how they've changed not only what the coloration looks like a little bit, they've changed the body proportions here slightly. And I do think that the mouthpiece looks more like Christian Bale than the DX19. Now, I've seen that being divisive, though. I've seen some folks say, who the hell is that? I don't see that in the mouth plates. So I think that mouth plates are one of those aspects of a figure anyways that can be very divisive. I was looking at my Captain America head sculpt Endgame versions the other day, the mouthpiece is there, and I think a lot of those don't totally look like Chris Evans, but I think this looks really, really strong. And then seeing kind of from different angles here, the back padding, which honestly is under a cape, so you'll probably never really see this aspect of it, but they've given slightly more accuracy, apparently, with the refined body proportions. And then ultimately, this is what that set looks like. They've also apparently made tweaks to the Christian Bale head sculpt. I would say they still haven't totally nailed Christian Bale's likeness, though. It's very obviously him, but there's just something about his head sculpts that never totally stick with me. I actually still think the DX12 head sculpt is my favorite one, and it's one of the older versions now. So interesting thoughts there. Let me know, guys, if you're watching in the chat. Are you happy with the likeness here for Christian Bale? Do you think it's improved, or do you think it's actually downgraded? And what are your thoughts on the outfit upgrade? But Lewis, I'm going to go to you first, because you said you're a big Christian Bale fan. When you saw this, is this going to replace any current Bale that you might have in the collection already? Is this going to add to it? What are your thoughts there?
Big Bale fan. This will add to it. I had the DX02, then the DX12, a couple DX12s, and a couple DX19s. So this will definitely add. And the first Batman Armory, I always swapped out the better upgraded Batman as my Batman, and then the lower or the downgrade as the Armory suit. And I think a lot of people may do that too, where the DX19 will be in the Armory now, and this new one will be their Batman to display. So I'll be doing that, or maybe I'll take the DX12 and put that on the Bat Pod. So if things tear or whatnot, I'm not going to care as much. So I love this. I do plan on getting the Inart version eventually as well, and
Wait
may
for
still
Inart hashtag.
dabble. Yeah, may still dabble in the J&D one,
Oh
the
my God,
statue essentially.
that's a flex right
Um,
there.
but I just am a huge Nolan whore essentially when it comes to Batman. So I will get this. I'm excited for it. I think a lot of people may be kind of biting themselves. They didn't order because it's been on wait list for I think a few months now. But I'm sure they'll get cancellations as well. So my last flex pay has been getting pushed what feels like the last 4 or 5 months. It just keeps getting pushed back. So I'm definitely ready for this. It sucks it was so close from the DX19 release, but unfortunately that's just Hot Toys now. Anytime they could make extra money and improving little things here and there, they're going to do it. It's just a matter of is it worth it or not to upgrade. And I think that parting this out because it's a set is going to be a pricey set. So you're almost better off getting the set and maybe selling the stuff that you don't want versus just trying to get one piece of it. So yeah, I'm fully on board. I'm excited for it. I do think the Bale head sculpt is a downgrade. I think they went back to the DX12 head sculpt in Batman or The Dark Knight, where it's a little shorter, and in The Dark Knight Rises, it's a much older, longer Christian Bale.
Good point.
So he's giving me a little Michael Cera vibes,
Oh,
and
interesting.
I know people are saying his skin is a lot paler. So yeah, I think it could use more work, but I think we're at a point now where this is pretty much production. It's just a matter of showing off before some other company may show off theirs upcoming too, rumor about that. So we'll see. But I'm excited. I'll have another armory. I like this armory. The Dark Knight armory is still my favorite of the two, but I'm excited to get this for sure. It's essentially one statue and one figure. So yeah, it'll be a good display piece, I think.
Absolutely. This still did rub me the wrong way. I'm not going to lie, this release overall. Because just like how I felt with Chrome Mando versus Beskar Mando, I had just got the Beskar Mando in hand and paid an astronomical amount of money here in Canada to get that set here. And I'm not kidding, it was like a month later they released the Chrome Mando. And they put comparison photos beside each other to be like, look how much better this new one is. And they did that with the DX19 and the Armory set. They also did something very similar with the Venom that I'd got in hand. I spent tons of money to get that Venom from Venom 1 in the collection. And then they came out with a 2.0 that came with the Eddie Brock half-molded head sculpt. And I'm like, damn it. Like, you spend so much money to get these in, and then they upgrade them. One of the things that pisses me off here, though, a little bit on this is that this figure is paywalled behind this armory set. I would 100% upgrade my DX12 out of my collection at this point because it's years old now. It's time. It's time to update them. I would 100% get this if I could just get the Batman. But I don't have the space or real estate here in the collection for the whole armory set. I just put the bat signalman behind me and that was enough. I can't imagine having the whole armory in here. So for me, like, I don't want the armory. As cool as it is, it's an awesome piece. And if I had the space and all the money in the world, 1,000% I would put that in the collection. But that's not reality. So I would be one of those people who might try and part this out and kind of go through that kind of process. But then, of course, it then really truly diminishes the value of the overall figure too, because if for some reason life happens and you want to move that figure along, well, now you've parted that figure out as well, or that armory. So it kind of depends on how you look at collecting, I suppose. But what about you, Feezy? Is that something that kind of burns your bridges when it comes to this figure in particular? Is this one that you already had coming anyways, not the big end of the world? And are you happy with the updates that we're seeing on both the sculpt but also the outfit itself?
Yeah, so to your first question, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it does kind of, I say, annoy me, but I don't really get that upset over it because, we've seen it multiple times. It's kind of, a gamble, right? It's, we get a figure. There is a potential that they'll update it, down the line in the future. We just don't know when. Yeah, it sucks when it's closer to when the previous one was released. So in your example, the Mando, had I known, obviously, that they were going to come out with a Chrome Mando 2.0, I would have waited for that one. But instead, I just opted for the initial one, which is fine with me. So I know that at that point you have to decide, okay, do I need, some people were in the comments were saying, do I need to get this Armory Batman with the new Batman, or just keep the old one, the DX19? So I saw that in that situation, I was fine with just the Mando I had, and I didn't need to buy it again. So, yeah, I mean, and all figure toy companies do that, right? They always come out, not almost say always, but most of the time they always come out with updated versions or some other versions that have some variation, and I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get to Star Wars figures. But so yeah, but regarding this figure, I actually don't have, as much as I really love the movies, I don't have any Bale Batmans in my collection, just because, I don't know, it's one of those figures where I don't think I wouldn't want a representation of this Batman in my collection. Like I mentioned already, I'm already getting the Keaton Batman, and I did like the suit of Battinson, so I got that one as well. But I don't have the Batfleck or this one in my collection, just because, as much as I like these movies, I was like, I'm good. I don't need this representation of Batman in my collection. In 1/6 anyways, 1/12, I have, that's good enough for me. So the head sculpt, though, I think the head sculpt here looks good. I think I haven't actually compared it to the previous one, but this right here, I think it looks good. I can see what you're saying about the paleness and the coloring, so maybe it could add a little more sun tanning to him, give him some color. But I think it looks good with the uncowled head. The cowled head, I think, I don't know. It looks, I want to say the previous one, if you kind of go back to the two comparisons there, I want to say the previous one looks more accurate, because I do remember him in the movies having more of like a round head, and that bothered me a little bit, but I know that was just part of the costume. And the newer one looks kind of more like the Keaton Batman type of cowl. So I don't know. That might be accurate, but just based from what I remember, the one on the right seems like how his head was. And that could be just in the first movie, The Batman Begins. Maybe I'm misremembering. But in one of them, he was like that. But I never liked this suit personally. So that's just me. And what ruined it for me even more is all the Pete Holmes impressions of Batman. Every time I see those on Instagram or wherever, man, it makes me laugh, and like it kind of ruins this Batman for me, especially when he does that one where I'm sure you've all seen it, where he had an interview with Aquaman. He's like, "So you talk to fish," and so it's like every time I see that, it just kills me, and it just ruins it more and more. But
I went down a large rabbit hole with those videos the other night. They were really funny. They were really really funny.
Freaking Petey. But yeah, so not one I would. Either way, I'm impartial, just because I'm not getting this overall. But I just think the one on the right, as far as with the cowl, kind of seems more accurate. But I don't know. Chris sounds like he has more. Can confirm that.
No, I was gonna say the exact same thing as you, Feezy. Like I don't know if I'm not an expert on the design iterations between those three movies, but like I remember the discourse at the time was like Tim Burton's Batman costume and the Joel Schumacher ones, like they got this big rigid neck piece that he can't turn his head around. This time we got to give him, he's got to be able to look around when he fights, because it made the fights look weird. Mm-hmm. So like I feel like somebody in the production sort of described it as like a motorcycle helmet almost, and that's what I think of when I see that DX19. That reminds me of that era a lot more. Of course, there's there's people who know this stuff. Like I'm familiar with Star Wars, and they'll tell you for the Dark Knight, maybe that one's more accurate. But even like the forehead ridges look notably different. So either one of them was way off originally, or they're mixing and matching between films here.
Interesting thoughts. Interesting. And it's amazing too, because when we all look at these for so long and so critically, and then we have to look at reference images, I can't remember, there's a condition, maybe you guys can remember what it's called, but it's like when you see an image, like for example of the Monopoly Man, right? And you're like, oh, the Monopoly Man always has a cane in every photo that he is in, right? 100% he has a cane, and then he doesn't, or
Mandela
whatever.
Effect.
The Mandela effect. Thank you. I couldn't remember what it was called. I get that sometimes with these types of Batman, where it's kind of like you said, with this photo here, they both look right, but they both look right for different reasons in my mind's eye. So when collectors like us start to chase after a while, we start selling off our previous versions because, oh, the new one's out and they say it's better and they say it's more accurate. Is that level of accuracy that important when it comes to something like a bat cowl? Where, like, again, I'm rocking the old Armory head sculpt. So I'd upgraded my DX12 head sculpt to the Armory head sculpt, which was night and day better than the DX12 one was. But to be honest, I have him kind of looking down, like kind of like an ominous pose, like he's about to fight Bane. So you can't really see the cowl all that face on anyways. I almost even say to myself, do I need to upgrade at this point? Do I need to spend the extra dollars? Or am I doing it just because it's the hype and it's cool? And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it is my favorite Batman set of films. So for me, that nostalgic punch in the chest that I always talk about gets me in the feels. But I also have to recognize that Hot Toys gives us, 80 to 100 figures a year. And we're only in May. So there's still a lot more cool shit that's going to come this year that I know for sure I'm going to want. Do I go back and buy figures I already have? Some folks are 100% yes. And other people, I would challenge your thinking on that, especially if you're a newer collector. Because watching us, week over week talk about how cool this stuff is, it can get really slippery in terms of the pocketbook, especially for figures you might already have in the collection. But let's talk about a figure none of us have in the collection yet, I think, for the most part. Maybe some customs out there that exist. But Mace Windu from Star Wars Episode 2 has finally been gifted to us from Hot Toys. And, it's interesting. When this was previewed, almost a year ago now, probably at least a year ago now, in terms of the pre-order window, I remember people being kind of critical of it, being like, that doesn't really look like Samuel L. Jackson. I don't really see the likeness. If you look back at some of the other figures, which I'm going to show you some images of here shortly, guys, but some other figures that have had the Samuel L. Jackson likeness in them, people say that this might actually be the softest. But then you got to also remember, he was 55 during the filming of Phantom Menace. He's now 75 years old. The Samuel L. Jackson that we can close our eyes and think of doesn't really look like what he looked like back in those prequel films. He's a lot smoother back then and younger looking. So it was an interesting thought. Now, where I think Hot Toys dropped the ball here on this figure is not actually with regards to the likeness, because I think, honestly, at certain angles, I really still do see Sam Jackson in there. I think it's the rolling eyes that they missed the mark on. If you could turn his eyes to make him look at the camera like he is in this left picture, I think you'd see the likeness there that much more. But maybe not. What are your thoughts on that, Chris, with regards to Mace Windu here coming from Hot Toys? Is this something you'd be interested in getting? I know that the original trilogy for you is really like your number one, but is this something that would come out?
Yeah, I mean, this is Mace Windu is almost like he's like a fulcrum in Star Wars history. Like if only he would have been a little more dedicated, he could have killed Palpatine and stopped the Empire from happening. But he slipped up, got thrown out a window. Really sucks. But the battle on Geonosis, like where you see all the Jedi getting cornered by the battle droids, that is like, as somebody who grew up with the original trilogy, that sequence is like something you dreamed of. You know what I mean? Like it was so crazy to finally see that, as much as people rip on that movie. So like when you think of the Jedi in their prime on the battlefield, like this character comes to mind. And I think usually what throws me off on something like this is the fact that you're really staring at 90% soft goods, and oftentimes that's really a tough sell as far as scale and everything. But and I don't know, in this shot it's really working for me, so I think I'm gonna have to give this a positive rating. And yeah, you got to remember, like, they filmed episode 1 in 1997. Like, it was a long time ago, so it's not 70-year-old Samuel L. Jackson. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. But of course, then on the screen here, I've got Hot Toys figures from the Spirit film, as from all the way back to 2008. We got the 2015 Nick Fury, which, based on its age, I did not expect it to look as amazing as it does, honestly. And then the 2024 version of Mace Windu. And like, again, while I definitely see him in there, and I see him in there even in comparison to the photos of his younger self, I definitely see it. There's still something kind of missing there for me, and I can't quite pinpoint it.
He does some real extreme expressions in episode 2 and 3 that, like, they probably didn't feel safe, even though they're some of the most iconic scenes. Like when he's staring down Sidious, he's got a real crazy face. That's what you remember from the movie, but you're not going to do a Hot Toys like that.
That's true, and that's true because when we get Hot Toys with such extreme facial expressions, sometimes people are like they hate it because then it also kind of pinholes what they can do with that figure likeness potentially, unless you get like that second head sculpt. Feezy, what are your thoughts here on some of the comparison shots of Samuel L. Jackson's figures from Hot Toys in the past, but also the newest Mace Windu figure here? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I think that comparison, the 2015, the Nick Fury, Sam Jackson is probably the best out of the three. That one looked really good, and yeah, this one I was in the camp. I know this one was really divisive in the beginning for the prototype when they showed this, they announced this. Some people were oh, this looks great or this is really good. Others were like it's off, and I was in the it's off category. And we know for the most part, Hot Toys usually there's like a downgrade if even this it comes out looking exactly like the prototype. And so unfortunately in this, I think it downgraded as well here, and I think it's off. So yeah, I agree. It's not perfect. It's good, but it's definitely not better than the prototype, I think. But yeah, it's weird though, because we were talking about obviously we were looking at the Mars toys earlier, the penguin and the rendering of the. So I don't know if I can actually compare the rendering of the Catwoman, but in general, third parties every year they're getting better and better. And I also collect third party figures. Some of that's mainly what I go over, third party and other stuff outside of Hot Toys on my channel. And I always bring this up. It's these other companies are, they have something to prove and they're trying to do it, at least the good ones anyways. But I know there's some people out there who disagree. They're like, oh man, that looks like crap, and they just crap all over it. And there's one of the streams maybe a couple of streams I bring up that, hey, you know what, Hot Toys doesn't always nail it either. Granted, they do have, for the most part, there's a lot of hits and misses, but sometimes we get some misses, and so they're not perfect either. So I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't know if it's just like a stigma thing because they're not Hot Toys, but I think this is a good example, me personally, that Hot Toys not nailing it. But that's not to say it's horrible. Like I said, I'm still getting it. I still think it's good. I do have the same sentiments as others have mentioned outside of the stream and even here in the chat that this is a Mace Windu. We're getting a Mace Windu. Who knows if we'll get another one? I mean, maybe we could get another one for the anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. But it's a gamble, right? It's a tough call. It goes back to what we were saying about if them releasing a figure, Hot Toys releasing a figure, then later on, maybe a couple years down the line, they release another one. You're like, oh, damn it, I could have just waited for that one. It's like, do you want to take that risk? Do you want to, there's no guarantee, right? We don't know. So I may be probably coming to that decision, coming to that bridge when I get to it, right? Do I want to buy the Mace if I get this one, or I am getting this one? So do I want to get that new one or just keep the one I have? So it's tough, man. But all in all, I still think it looks good for what it is, and I'm definitely getting it to have in my collection.
Do either of you guys think Mace survived?
I want to say he does. I want to say he does.
Chris says no. PZ says yes. I think he might come back. I think it is a possibility. They didn't show him actually die, so in Star Wars that could mean he could come back.
It's you gotta look at it this way. In the movies, Darth Maul dies in Episode 1. Mm-hmm. In the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Chopped in half.
And that's how George intended it at the time. He changed his mind later when he was a bit more loose, but like at the time, he was meant to be dead. And I feel the same way about Mace Windu in Episode 3.
Yep, fair enough.
To touch on that real quick, though, I did. I'm sure most of you have seen that that one video that someone did. I don't know, it was like a fan video of Mace surviving, and they were hunting him. So I'm wondering if whoever at Disney or the writers is like, you know what, this could be something. So that could give them some inspiration or some ideas. I don't know, because that was badass. I'm not gonna lie. So I would like to see him back. That was pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Before I go to you, Lewis, we've got Low-Key Collector here in the chat with us. We're missing you here on the show, buddy. We got to get you back here pretty soon. He says, gentlemen, let's frickin' go. He says, I'm in love with an older white woman. Lenore, the voice of Rogue, called me Sugar.
Nice.
I damn near melted. You
Yeah.
love to see it, buddy.
Bet
That's
you did
awesome.
more than that. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah.
It's called nutting on this show, okay? But
Yeah.
good to see you here, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome, dude. That's very, very, very cool. Lewis, what are your thoughts here on Mace Windu, the release? Do you think that there's a possibility that he also survived? Same questions for you, good sir. What are your thoughts?
I am getting him simply because I need him for my collection. I don't think Hot Toys did a good job with him. Their Nick Fury 2015, all they really had to do was just sculpt the other eye and then repaint it, and I think they'd be fine. But I feel like they went too symmetrical in his face, and Sam Jackson's very unique face. The asymmetry is I think what gives him a lot of his iconic stare, essentially. And I think Hot Toys just made him really I don't want to say like pretty, but just really symmetrical. And I
They
think
give him
they
a
did
filter.
similar-
It's an Instagram filter.
but I think they did the same with the recent Luke Skywalker as well, you know. So the asymmetry that they're lacking, and that may be because of digital technology and sculpting and all that, that could be it. But long story short, I think the sculpt is off. Am I going to get it? Yes, I have to for my collection. I don't know if they'll make another one. You know, Lando's still sitting, unfortunately, and it's not comparing the two, but it's just one of those things where a lot of people love Mace, and I love him as a character, but I think just one version, and his suits don't change too much from episode 1 to 3. But if they do make another, I'm on board, because I'll probably get that, because my displays are kind of like buy movies. So I'll jump on that, and they give me a stumped hand. Sure, I'll take that too. But I think this one really needed separate rolling eyeballs. I don't think it has it, right? It's just
No, not on this
Yeah.
one.
you
Well,
need
and-
to have it.
Well, and doesn't have the USB lightsaber like most of the new figures are getting either. I like this is
Yeah.
likely that lightsaber like attached to arm joint thing that pisses
Yeah,
everybody off
yeah.
and stays in the box for most people after a while. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I think they dropped the ball with Mace, unfortunately. This figure needed separate rolling eyeballs because he's just has so much expression, and he doesn't have any accessories like some of the other Jedi that we've gotten. So they dropped the ball there, and it sucks, but definitely going to order him. I think Sideshow did a much better job on the premium format that they just unveiled. Granted, it's quarter scale, so it's a larger medium to get better detailing. But if they could shrink that down in a figure, that'll look better. I don't think he's alive, unfortunately. You can't take a character like Mace, like Samuel Jackson, even, and not have him show up in any of the shows, any of the movies.
Yeah.
They did it with Maul. They brought him back shortly after with the Clone Wars, then Rebels, and then Solo. And with Mace Windu, he should have shown up by now. You don't get that rank of Jedi Master and Sabersmith and not be back already. So I would love to see it, but unfortunately, for me, I think he's gonzo.
He should have come with Django's severed head as an accessory.
Oh my god!
You know,
Can you imagine?
yeah.
That'd be
I
wild.
nothing against Ahmed Best, but if that was, maybe Mace Windu, who was helping Grogu escape, I don't know. That would
Yeah,
have been epic.
That's fair.
I think he's already dead at that point in time. No, that's the problem, right?
Yeah, because that's 66 where he would have
Yeah.
been gone, but maybe, he did a soft landing, saw what was going on, and trying to help kids
Right.
escape, and then boom,
Right.
interception, right? Severed
Yeah.
hand and all. But yeah,
Hey, it could happen.
I just
Make
don't see it.
world.
Did these images change your perspectives at all on the likeness, guys? This is Jose G. Hernandez sent me these images. Shout out to MRC Collectibles on YouTube. Awesome content. Go check his stuff out. He usually gets kind of first looks at most things because he's actually in Hong Kong, which is awesome for the rest of us here who have to wait. I don't think it looks much
It's
better.
better.
I think
Oh,
it kind of looks
yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
This doesn't necessarily sell me on it anymore, unfortunately, Jose. I think that they're better pictures because you can see a little more up close, but it still looks to me to be about the same. Does this change any of your thoughts out there, guys?
It's a great way that description of how not to light your figures. That's all I got to say about that.
Top down like that, yeah. Fair enough. Just depends on what you're going for, I suppose. Yeah, no, none of you guys. This changes your mind necessarily.
No, yeah, I agree. I think it still looks the
off for
same
me.
personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still off.
Unfortunately,
I think his eyes. I do agree. I mean, he does, emote a lot of expression with his eyes. So I think if they just made his eyes bigger, because he does have big eyes, I think that would have helped a lot. So
Well, yeah,
but,
because like even in this picture here, like it looks like his left eye is kind of moving away from his right eye slightly, right? But if you
It's just
had the
floating
rolling
away.
all system, you could make that happen. You know what I mean? Like you could make it. The asymmetry is exactly it. Because even his face kind of slants to the left a little bit in that photo. It looks like it's just. That is very iconic to him, and I agree. That's what gives him a lot of that. Well, I mean, he's a masterful character person anyway, let's be honest. But it definitely adds to his ability to bring character out of his roles, right? So
Yeah.
I can see that. It doesn't change my mind, unfortunately, Jose. You hate to see it. Guys, we got 70 plus people watching in the chat. Again, if you're just joining in, if you don't mind hitting the like button for the show, definitely would be appreciated. A couple more folks have rolled in. I want to say a special shout out to Brick Artemis here with us. Love to see you here, but he says, yikes, not very good in my opinion. Of course, that's all this is really. No, this isn't meant to yuck anybody's yum. At the end of the day, I am still excited to get Mace Windu in my collection, despite me being a little bit critical of it, because just like I felt with the Endgame Loki, people shit on that figure. They're like, he doesn't look anything like him, as Tom Hiddleston with his slick back hair. And a lot of the first images, I was like, ooh, they're right. It doesn't really look like him. And then when I got him in hand, and especially when you put the helmet on and everything, that figure comes to life for me. So like sometimes having figures in your collection versus being compared directly to the actor like we have on the screen right now is actually, in my opinion, the best way to go. It's just that the downfall of Hot Toys, in my opinion, nowadays is that, back when I started collecting Hot Toys, you could kind of take a risk. You could buy a figure that you weren't totally sure on, and if you didn't love it once you got it in hand, you could at least sell it for retail like 98% of the time, if not actually maybe make a couple bucks on it. Whereas like nowadays, you're kind of lucky to get retail on it sometimes, it feels like, when you try and sell on the aftermarket. So it doesn't necessarily incentivize me, at least, to take as much of a risk as I may have done in the past. But hard to say there for sure. I am still excited about the figure either way. But yeah, it's worthy of talking about the art aspect of it. I was talking to a non-collector about that yesterday, how they said, like, why do you collect toys? Like, what is it about the toy aspect? And I'm like, it's not a toy in my mind. It's an artistic representation of some of my favorite characters of all time. And these represent memories from my friendships, my parents, my growing up, just myself hanging out in my bedroom alone, like loving a movie and having nobody to share it with. Like all of that packed into this collection room, and it represents me. And I know all of our collection rooms, whether you have hundreds of figures or whether you have 3 figures, represent who you are and what is nostalgic for you. Mace is one of those characters, or honestly even just Sam Jackson himself as an iconic actor, who represents a great display, in my opinion. Now, moving on, guys, I'm going to cover this really quickly because I know we don't always have a ton of Star Trek fans out there, but Nanjin, if you follow him on Facebook, he's the developer of Exo 6. He says, the long-awaited TNG, The Next Generation Picard, is ready. We are processing paperwork. This is a black hole process, absolutely zero control in space and time. And I have no idea when TNG Picard will be approved. Whenever we hear engage, we will put them up for pre-order, but absolutely no time to lose for 2024. We're almost halfway through 2024 already. Exo 6, the Star Trek Museum, completes its story with Jean-Luc Picard, with it coming for the TNG Picard release. And they've given us a little teaser image here of him in the dark. So for me, this is definitely a notable current exclusion. Star Trek The Next Generation is my favorite Star Trek. And so I've got, Data in hand already. I'm waiting on my Geordie LaForge. I'm really excited for him. I'm really hoping we get to see a Worf soon in his yellow outfit, not his security outfit, not the Picard Season 3 version that they've already shown us for teasing. Like, I want the whole next gen crew. But like, Picard's the captain of the ship. Like, He's like the guy, you know. Like you need to have a Picard in your collection. I do have a First Contact Picard myself, and I've got the Locutus of Borg as well, which is one of my favorite figures, just because Locutus is again that nostalgic punch in the chest for me. Locutus is also my laser tag name, so if anybody ever goes after me in laser tag, you will get assimilated by Locutus here. But I didn't necessarily want to get a round table on this from the panel unless you guys have anything to say on this otherwise, but just kind of an exciting tease, at least from the developer. Not an official announcement yet, but guys, stay tuned on the Ben Thomas Show. I cover all the Exo 6 news and pre-orders and releases and everything, so you can bank on it. The day this pops up in the feed, I will be talking about it. Let's get on to this guy here, because exclusives have been kind of the thing that everybody's talking about this week. Are we happy with exclusive figures? Are we happy that there are things coming to our collections that not everybody else has? But then, of course, when it comes to exclusive, there is also that aspect of missing out, and the defeating feeling of missing something that you might want in your collection and now you can't get it, especially the limited versions that come out here. This particular figure popped up for me, and I will say, full transparency, this one was a nothing burger for me, quoting Eddie Money Mendez, because while I think the figure looks very cool, I didn't recognize the fact that the body and the armor is very much kind of a copy and paste from the Hunter figure, I'm pretty sure. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I do like the mask on this one in particular. I think it looks really cool, but it sounds like it's battery operated, not USB operated, which in my opinion, going forward, really for any light up figures, is kind of a miss, because that helmet would look really cool if you could leave it on. And I put batteries recently in a figure and it was dead before I could even finish taking photos of it. So the battery thing is disappointing, to be sure. But also, of course, this was an exclusive. So was this one something that you guys were chasing? I think right now chasing exclusives is kind of fun, because if you get one, it's kind of like winning the figure lottery. It feels exciting. But I also see it really take the wind out of people's sails and create a little bit of fatigue in the collector community. Jay, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I kind of went into this. I did want this, and I was fortunately able to get it. But I was already going with the mentality like, hey, I may not get it, just because I figured, again, taking a chance that they may do this again. You mentioned, I didn't know it was repaint either, until they mentioned that. I know I already heard some people mentioning that, and so that kind of just goes to show, like, hey, they could most likely do this again, right? Because they did that with who was that? One of the 501st troopers, right? They did that, the one from the Clone Wars, and I think they did the other one from Ahsoka. Is that right? Where it was like the blue was darker. Mm-hmm. So those are pretty close in paint. So I'm pretty sure they'll probably do something similar with this. So the only thing is, what is gonna, aside from the paint, what else is gonna be with this exclusive in particular, right? What is this gonna have that the other ones aren't? And it doesn't seem like it comes with much already, right? It's just his blaster, and I think that was it. The jetpack and some hands. So
pretty minimal.
Yeah, usually exclusives, they come with some other additional accessory or something you can get in the normal mass-produced releases. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see, what this will, what this exclusivity will have. What will make it a special figure to have, for those who were able to get it, if anything. So, I only got one with the intention of potentially them remaking or repainting another one and having a variation. So if I did want to get another one, I can have at least another iteration of this trooper. So yeah, I agree. It does look badass. I like the helmet there. I like how when it's not lit up, it's partly painted. After watching some reviews, they said it was partly painted, but you can also light it up to add that much more of an effect. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, as far as exclusives, again, going back, it's kind of hard to tell what they're going to come out with in the future, right? So what if exclusive is going to be worth getting? You kind of have to take a chance on that one and see, if it's going to be worth it for you.
Totally true. Well said, good sir. Well said. Ryan Dean here in the chat says this is battery operated, as we said, but the battery does nothing apparently on this one. Looks basically the same turn on or off based on the video review so far. I haven't seen any video reviews so far, so that's interesting to note. That makes me happier, honestly, because I just recently put the C-3PO figure in my collection from Return of the Jedi, and that poor bugger looks very turned off when he's not turned on, and it's a really big downfall in my opinion for the character, because he's otherwise such a great figure. If this doesn't make a huge difference for this one, that's okay. Chris, the word exclusive for me is a little bit of a trigger word lately, and Eddie and I got back and forth in it on Collecting Weekly a couple of weeks ago, because I was talking about my Shadow Trooper from 2015 or 17, one of the years. I think it was 15, and I was a little butthurt because, they recently came out with the Shadow Trooper 2.0 with that, cool red Death Star backdrop. Very cool. Love that figure. A month ago, I could have sold my exclusive one for like $700 on the aftermarket if I ever had wanted to. I didn't want to. I love that figure. But then they came out with the 2.0 and it crashed that release. Now, the reason I felt butthurt by that was because it had exclusive on the box when I bought it, and it still says exclusive. But now there's another version of it that exists that I could buy today for less money than I paid for the original version. And so I was upset about that. And Eddie was like, well, you're crazy, in nicer words, because it's not limited. It's exclusive, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to come back again. So for the new collectors watching the show at the very least today, don't let necessarily the word exclusive fool you like it did me. When I saw a Shadow Trooper exclusive, I thought we would never see it again. And that was only like 7 years ago, maybe 10. I can't remember exactly how long. Chris, is exclusive a trigger word for you? What are your thoughts on them making like a trooper exclusive versus maybe one of the other face characters? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's usually going to mean repaint, and with some other companies, it means less and less all the time. You start hearing the words timed exclusive more recently, where it'll be a retailer exclusive for a while for some of the cheaper 1/12 scale stuff, and then it'll open up after a few months. But for me, this is like, if you're not an army building kind of guy, this is not I would say it's not the most iconic version of this armor. This is the Republic Commando armor style. It's been around for like 20 years. It debuted for the Republic Commando game that came out a little before episode 3, and it was like a prelude story to episode 3, and that featured Delta Squad, where you have a much more iconic group of characters that have this similar armor. And one of them, Scorch, is a character they've been still using recently. I think he showed up in Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, and he's got this armor, but he's got like a flamethrower set up, so he's got like gas refueling tanks like on the backpack and stuff, and he's got some yellow highlights. You're probably going to see that version. You're probably going to see that. He looks cooler. Or at least you could give the generic Republic version of the Commando. This is the Imperial Commando. I think this is like the Bad Batch version, so this is real down the line. If you're going to have multiple versions and you love clones, this is cool, but otherwise I would wait for Scorch.
Fair enough. Well said there. And we got Gigi here in the chat with us, the absolutely best part of 16fix YouTube channel there. Says, I have a lot of thoughts on this. None of them are good. At Feezy's Figures, love to see it. Gigi, if you are ever interested, I would love to have you on a Let's Get Nuts show at some point. So
Yeah.
you can leave Marco to do the chores, make him take Pancake for a walk, and we'll get you on the show if you're ever interested. She says, "Put me in, Coach." I'd love to see it. Love to see
She's
it. Would
really
love to
nice.
have you, buddy. Would love to have you, Louis. I want to go to you next, but on this figure in particular, and I want to share a quick story. One of my favorite Classy Thomas moments are SpongeBob SquarePants panelist, who's often here on Weeks. He saw a picture recently of Darth Sidious, and he kind of squints at the screen and says, "Is that an old lady in a hood?" And every time I see Darth Sidious now, I think of Classy
That's
Thomas.
right.
Well,
Remember that.
Well, Classy Thomas should get some points for that, because the first appearance of Palpatine is an old lady in a hood.
Yes.
With the eyes, right? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
That's so good. Man, it makes me
The
laugh.
goggles. Yeah.
Yeah, Classy, we miss you, buddy, if you're still watching on the couch there, buddy. But Lewis, what do you think of Darth Sidious here? Now, I did a this or that video on this character because we do have the Darth Sidious from Attack of the Clones. I always want to say Clone Wars, but Attack of the Clones version on the way, and now we've got this version. And does one actually need two Darth Sidious's? Now, my argument there would be, we haven't got a Palpatine, like a Chancellor Palpatine from Phantom Menace. So if you wanted a Palpatine head sculpt, that other version gives it to you, while as this one kind of gives you that kind of scary vibe, you know, the injured Palpatine that we see. So could you have both? This, that, both? What are your thoughts there? And yeah, what are your thoughts on Palpatine overall?
I love this. I'll definitely be getting this. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite of the prequels, so I'm on board. A couple things that they missed the boat on. I feel this could have easily have had the wrists light up like Iron Man style and have the hands light up,
Ooh,
which I think those are just sculpted, right? It doesn't light up at all. So I think they could have done that. They're giving us another grinning face, which I think people are just sick of because the first Emperor on throne had the grinning face. This could have easily have had two faces. Give us the face where he tells Vader to execute Order 66, right? I mean, give us that scary pre-Emperor face, which I'm sure they'll probably release again. You know, again, that's just Hot Toys. And this is why, not to go off topic, the limited edition, Gigi, I'm sorry, I'm a limited edition collector. I like to know that whatever I'm getting is limited, and that if there is another release, it may be different or it may not ever be done. But if you really want it, you're going to pay for it. You know, that's really what it comes down to. If there's something you want so bad, you're going to pay for it. And that's with anything, you know, sports tickets, cars, stamps, coins, you know, there's a price to pay when you miss out. And I don't believe that companies need to keep reissuing things to appease the new collectors. Hot Toys will probably get my son on board when he's, you know, 10 years older, and they'll come up with, who knows, holographic figures by then. I mean, that's just what I've accepted as Hot Toys. They are, yes, they are a evolving toy company, and that's it. So I like the limited edition aspects, but I am accepting that they will make a better figure down the road, especially if it's a very important character and iconic character. That being said, I will get this. I will probably buy the parted out head sculpt for the Clone Wars version as well, because their outfits are very similar time frame, but Sidious all the way for Revenge of the Sith, and then part outs for the Clone Wars.
Well said, dude. Well said. I like the idea of the parted out thing. I think a lot of people are going to chase, you know, sites like Monkey Depot and what's the other one?
Yes.
Toy Anxiety.
Toy Anxiety.
And some of those, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, there's almost 100 of us watching live right now. We're all probably thinking about the same thing. So I'm going to be the first in line. I'm going to tell you guys it drops on another day. You hate to see it. No, I'm just kidding. But
yeah,
honestly,
those scavengers, man.
Yeah, well, you got to be, though. You got to be in this hobby,
Yeah.
right?
You
I
have
can
to.
see the argument for both here. I really can. I wouldn't be surprised, though, with Ian McDermott's likeness being given or granted if we didn't also see a Chancellor Palpatine from Phantom Menace. We know that, well, we don't know. We think that there's probably going to be more that comes from the Phantom Menace line. At least I kind of hope so. Because if Darth Maul's the only one that comes, I think that's a little disappointing. I would be down for an Artisan, Qui-Gon Jinn, and the Padawan Anakin, and kind of, I would, honestly, that whole lineup of film I would really love to see. So it wouldn't be surprising if we saw another Palpatine, or I should say Ian McDermott likeness. Now, the other thing, though, is for me specifically, I'm kind of holding out hopes a little bit, and maybe this is a trigger word, for a 2.0 of Emperor Palpatine from Return of the Jedi. I've got the Return of the Jedi Vader on the way. I don't really have much from Attack of the Clones or the Clone Wars, and I don't really have anything at this point from Revenge of the Sith. So while I think this is a great figure and it looks just like him in my opinion, somebody said he's wearing a potato sack and I'm like, that's hilarious. Now I can't unsee that. I also kind of want him in the throne, like, you know, the mega, you know, and I wouldn't be totally surprised if we see a 2.0 of that as well. I thought we already would have, honestly, because of the Return of the Jedi Vader coming. But Jay, what are your thoughts here on Palpatine here or Sidious? Is it this? Is it that? Is it both? What are the arguments you made to yourself in order to justify this or keep it out of the collection?
Yeah, so right off the bat, I'm getting both. Again, this is another example of that situation where, I went in wanting Sidious in general, specifically from Return of the Jedi. That is my Star Wars movie. I know Lewis and I were talking backstage. That was the one I grew up with, and I watched multiple times from start to finish. And I was telling you guys backstage, I even popped open my I recreated this scene here, though not accurate, because I got my Vader from Obi-Wan and then my Mando Luke. And so I just opened that Vader today. Yeah, I wanted to put this up here, but to get my Return of the Jedi display going. So I'm aiming for those figures. So when I got the Clone Wars Palpatine, that was my goal, right? I wanted to at least have some sort of version of him to add to my Return of the Jedi display in my shelf, even though that's not accurate. And then I saw that there was a third party, I think it was by FDH, a third party kit that had the head sculpt, the black robe, hands, with electricity effects. And so I got that with the intention of, using that to kit bash this, the Clone Wars Palpatine to a Emperor Palpatine. And so, had that, and then, like we were just saying, then this comes out, the images of the tease of the power of the dark side. I'm like, holy shit, are they going to do it? And sure enough, and, again, like, damn, had I known, I would have waited, but, I'm not going to cancel my pre-order because, that could be used for a different display. The Clone Wars obviously can go with the Clone Wars, and you can recreate fight scenes from Clone Wars, obviously, that he was in, which were badass, by the way, especially, the one with him in versus Maul and Savage. Oh man, so badass. So there's some scenes you can recreate in there with that Clone Wars Palpatine, but now this is more closer to Return of the Jedi version. And watch, when I get this, and they're gonna announce the Emperor Palpatine on the throne, like people were saying. But I might do the whole piecing out, like you guys were saying. I might look just for throne. And, I might come to that decision again. I'm like, damn, okay, do I want to get another Sidious, or do I just want to get the throne if it does come with that, or what? So it's another, decisions we make as collectors, right? We always are faced with those decisions. And so, but yeah, now it's just more options, right? So now I still have that kit coming. Well, actually, I already have it, that third party Emperor Palpatine kit. But yeah, this version here looks badass. The facial expressions, I'm on the side with, I actually like this sculpt of him laughing, because that's, I went back and watched Revenge of the Sith just because this got me hyped up for that. This figure got me hyped up for this release, right? So, and the most memorable scene for me is just him laughing constantly when he's fighting Yoda. The ha ha ha, and so I can just looking at this, I can hear that in my head. It's just that nails it. The Clone Wars version, on the other hand, I think that could have done with more of a more stoic, kind of stern politician type look, rather than this kind of goofy look here. This old man, like creepy vibe going here.
Would you like some chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate. Hey, cowboy. Yeah. So, I'm getting both. All that. Long story short, I'm getting both, each for their own purpose. But yeah, the new Sidious looks badass. I like the way it looks.
Nice. Well said. Well said. Chris, do you think we could see then a Yoda potentially come back around for Hot Toys for this film in particular, especially since he is a key player in Revenge of the Sith? And then what are your thoughts here on Palpatine? This, that, both, either? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about this Clone Wars one, because I don't really associate Ian McDermott with Clone Wars. He didn't even do the voice actually on any of that stuff. Well, maybe real late in the game, maybe season 7 he did, but it was Ian Abercrombie of it originally. But Palpatine's it's like the miracle of cinema, man. The fact that Ian McDermott had just happened to be 38 years old playing a 100-year-old Palpatine in Return of the Jedi, that he just was the right age to pick the role back up, even though it was a prequel series. And the weird thing is, you're talking about wanting the Return of the Jedi look, having recently watched episode 1, when he's lurking around with the cloak on, that's almost exactly the Return of the Jedi cloak. Even the clasp, I think, is the same. So he put it in a closet somewhere, and when he became the Emperor, he put his original episode 1 robe back on. So this is the stylized version. Yeah. but okay, this is cool. And obviously, like you're saying, the duel with Yoda is one of the most insane things that's like ever been put on screen. So that's why you got to watch episode 4, 5, and 6 first, so that the most insane duel of all time doesn't like break your brain, and then you have to watch the original trilogy where they throw Senate booths at each other and stuff. It's like, it's good stuff. But like Ben was saying, I would love an episode 1 version where he looks like the senator, but then they just give you the cloak so you can like pull it down like right to above his nose, because it's almost like a Batman with a disguise, you know what I mean? It's like Superman and Clark Kent and
Who is that?
Yeah, well, it's like for the people who watch episode 1 and don't realize that Senator Palpatine's the Emperor the whole time, right? Like there's a great interview with Liam Neeson where he like points out that through the whole production and reading the script, he never realized that Senator Palpatine was the Emperor, and he realized it after he watched the finished movie, and he like got on Ian McDermott's case for being the bad guy the whole time, and he didn't know it. But it's funny just because like that would really work, because you're really just talking about a cloak accessory, and you could use the same head sculpt for that episode 1 version. That'd be fun. This looks great though, and I think the laughing head sculpt's perfect, because you see this guy, first of all, you imagine the funny scene in his office where him and Yoda throw each other around, and then then it's Senate booths flying after that. So this looks great to me. I could be into this.
Hell yeah, dude! Absolutely, well said. And I would love to see a Yoda. I've missed on Yoda. I shouldn't say I've missed on that. I purposely hadn't got them. I wasn't at that stage yet. But what are your thoughts there, Feezy? One last thought.
Yeah, I was gonna say, going back to the mixing of genres, I think this Revenge of the Sith, the scenes with him, and he's, once he's already transformed, even when he's in that fight with Mace Windu, man. The closest to horror, that for some reason that scene in particular is just disturbing to me. Like sometimes it's just weird. Like the whole, I don't know. There's something about it mentally that just bothers me, where he's, fighting Mace, and then he's trying to, persuade Anakin, and, then he does, and he cuts his arm, and he just shocks him with that evil laugh, man. He just nails it, and it just really creeps me out. It's just, oh man, it is so creepy. And then the way he looks, he just straight up cold blood murders Mace, throws him out the window. Going back to if he's still alive, but yeah, it's just a lot of people were saying like he looks too scary, and yeah, I actually like that about that. As kind of disturbing as it is, it just horror element just really adds to it. I think that's why that kind of appeals to me. Also, being a fan of horror movies and horror content. Horror, clarify.
It's true, but I am still kind of surprised. Like I get it, like. Sometimes I'm not surprised, and sometimes I am surprised. This surprises me that there's so much excitement for this particular character still. Like, I get it, he's like a pinnacle aspect of Star Wars, especially like once he becomes Emperor. But like, and throughout, obviously, he seeds, the dark side all through those films. Like, I get it. But like, even Vader, I've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi Vader on the way. I've got Return of the Jedi Vader on the way, and I've got Empire Strikes Back Vader in my collection. I'm like, why do I even need 3 versions of Vader? I love Darth Vader. He is my favorite aspect of the films in terms of the dark side characters. I'm surprised people want as many of Sidious or Palpatine as there even is available at this point. Why not just have one definitive and save the dollars for other characters? But on the other hand, I also understand the completionist collector. I understand that like if you have this, like maybe Attack of the Clones is your favorite of the Star Wars. Maybe Revenge of the Sith is your favorite of the Star Wars. So then, yeah, fair enough. Like, I'm happy to have the selection. I'm just surprised how bought in everybody is to get multiple versions of the same character. When, like I said earlier in the show, 80 to 100 Hot Toys a year, kind of on average. That doesn't include, things like Mars toys or Inarts or all of the things. Like, my God, like, it's hard to keep up as is, for me anyways. But I'm no doctor of paint. Maybe I should become a doctor of paint. I got really bad chicken scratch writing, and my mom was always like, you should have been a doctor. And I'm like, sorry to disappoint you.
Joke's on you, Mom.
Yeah, right. No, I sell paint. Don't worry about it. On to the next one here, guys. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Mandalorian armor. Once again, in that exclusive category there. This is a weird one for me, okay? This is a weird one because, again, I love Star Wars, but like this is not a figure I feel like I actually needed at all. I honestly think it's cool, but I also think it 100% looks like somebody just kit bashed it together and was like, that's cool, I like that, and that's a good use of my Obi-Wan Kenobi sculpt, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't recognize this from canon. I honestly don't. So, Chris, you might be able to tell me where exactly this is from. And if I had that nostalgic connection to it, I'd probably be sitting on a different fence. But for me, this is one I purposely chose to skip. Most of these, I purposely chose to skip because of my affection for other characters that I'm still really, truly waiting on. But I also saw a lot of collectors really disappointed that they missed on this, especially because of some of the queue system issues that we're having. People were like, man, I missed on that. They had shown the Obi-Wan Kenobi earlier in the week on Facebook, the other version, and that seemingly got taken down. I don't think it's gone back up again. Also some criticism really around the beard and the mustache here. Now, I trim my mustache back so you can see my lip a little bit, but when I go back and watch the films and the shows that have Ewan McGregor as Kenobi, he's got a really thick mustache. Like, that dude's got one hell of a growth.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. For me, this is one I could skip. But I also understand why, for the people who, like Lewis, want the limited versions or want maybe those exclusives, why this would be a thorn in the side if you missed it. Lewis, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts here on this figure in particular? Is this one that you were chasing?
I originally wasn't, but I know being this rendition from the Clone Wars, very dramatic kind of arc for him, pretty much closest to a partner in his life that you'll see. So it's a great arc if you haven't seen it. So in that sense, for the hardcore Clone War collectors, I think this was a must. I like it. It does look very Kit Bash, especially if you don't know the reference material. To be honest, my justification furthermore for getting this was it's cheaper than the Clone Wars version.
Okay.
Which is another variant that, isn't 100% canon with that suit versus the maybe the other Clone Wars cartoon series Obi-Wan. I'm getting this for mainly the body and the head. I can put a generic body in the suit, keep the helmet, but I can use the body and the head and replace it with my Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan. Because I know Hot Toys will make a Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan. They'll probably use the same head sculpt, but that will probably be another year and a half if they haven't even previewed it. Maybe for next year for the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'll be using this mainly for the body and the head, upgrading my Revenge of the Sith with it, because you can't swap the head sculpts, of course.
Yep.
And then I'll just put a generic body and use the helmet and figure out the adapter for the helmet. But essentially, two figures in one.
That makes sense. Totally makes sense. Great thought there as well, kind of parting it out for yourself and making like the most out of a box, which is definitely kind of sticks with me as well. And then, Chris, I'm curious for you, because 14 Wellington here, one of our channel members, makes an interesting point. He says, if the Obi-Wan wasn't exclusive, this would have just sat on Sideshow website until it went on sale for 20% off. What are your thoughts on that? Bit of a hot take there.
Well, I think this is Hot Toys in the mind of like 5 years ago, where they're just like, well, you guys think this is cool if we slap Mandalorian armor on it? And like to me, this is like a one or two. I think this is season 5 of the Clone Wars. It's like Louis was saying, it's a good arc for sure. But this is it's 1 or 2 episodes maybe. It's a little off the beaten path for a Hot Toys for me. They couldn't resist because it's Mandalorian armor Obi-Wan. It's just kind of like clone armor Obi-Wan. It's like somebody's going to be into it. It's just like unless you're when we know a lot of people who are going to have a row of Obi-Wans from his whole life across canon. Unless you're that guy, doesn't really seem like it's for you, in my opinion. But because this wouldn't be in the top 2 Obi-Wans, and I wouldn't put the Obi-Wan show Obi-Wan in even on the list. So you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of competition for cool Obi-Wans. But so like, is it objectively cool? Yes, because they're strapping rockets and missiles to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But he's cool without that too, right? Like,
it's Obi-Wan with a pistol. What do you want? It's is that cool? Yes, it's cool.
That's wild. And now, like our buddy Evil Sneaker, hopefully he's still cutting his grass out there. But like people keep saying Evil Sneaker looks like him, and I'm like, I kind of see it now, especially with his shorter hair. But no, I think this is an interesting one. Feezy, did you have any final thoughts here on Obi-Wan or the exclusive nature of this figure or anything like that before we move on?
Yeah. So just warning all, I told Ben I had some thoughts on just these two in general, this exclusive and the Imperial Commando. So get ready for a long-winded one here. Either put me on mute, grab your popcorn, or finish mowing your lawns if you're doing that. So, yeah, get that bucket. Get your Doom buckets ready. Extra butter. So I don't think what we didn't differentiate, and it's probably don't need to. But for those, in case they're out there who are new to collecting and aren't aware, exclusive and limited are two different things. So limited obviously just means there's a certain number made, and that's not necessarily exclusive to one retailer. So there's only so many made, and in this case for Obi-Wan, I believe it was 2,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 2,000 here. So exclusive just means that it's only available with a certain retailer, right, or a certain distributor. And so they're two separate things. They don't always have to be. Just because it's exclusive doesn't mean it's always limited. There's some only. Chris knows this, for example, in 1/12 scale, Amazon, Target, Walmart, they have their own figures that they sell and their variations, and they're only available there. So those are exclusive, right? Those are considered exclusive, not necessarily limited. So I just wanted to clarify that for those who weren't aware. So first point.
Where were you in 2015 when I thought that Shadow Trooper was exclusive and never coming back? Okay.
Sorry.
Where were you then,
I wish
bud?
I would have knew. Okay. Yeah. I wish I could flash back in time and tell you, Ben, no way. But yeah, so, and then going on to the, I'm genuinely curious because I think this sculpt looks good. Again, I know this is the same sculpt from the Clone Wars, but what is it that's turning a lot of people off? I keep hearing about the upper lip, but what exactly is it? What am I missing here? Because I think this looks good. Is it just a mustache?
I think it's mostly just the mustache and the fact that you can't see the upper lip, and at certain angles when you see it from below, it looks like it's more of just like a gaping hole as opposed to a real mouth.
Oh, I see. Okay.
On the other hand, I also think that they dialed this in because when the prototype came out, I honestly joked that he looked like he'd been stung by a bee, and I don't feel that way about this sculpt now. I do think that this is dialed in. Yeah,
because I was looking at photos of Ewan McGregor, and it was I think Revenge of the Sith in the beginning. He had this kind of fuller beard. I think maybe at the end of Attack of the Clones here. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he had like you were saying, Ben. He had a thick mustache and beard going. So I think this looks good personally. But touching on the whole aspect of repaints, a lot of people were saying this is just a repaint. This quick cash grab. I kind of go over this in this very topic on one of my shows, How You Figure, on my channel, and we actually went over variants versus cash grabs, and we have different ways of perceiving or saying how how someone can take that, right? Some people kept saying, well, all figures are cash grabs, right? I think we all understand that they want to make money. As a company, Hot Toys wants to make money. Yeah, see, look at that. Look at that full beard there. Nice set of beard hair. But yeah, so it's, of course they want to make money. They need to make that money to then turn around and fund other figures. And so, as far as reusing parts, I think it just makes sense, right? From a business standpoint, or in general, you think about everyday things in our lives, right? You think about, just say, like our kitchen appliances, our pots, our pans, we want to get the most use out of them as we can. We don't want to just use them for, just say 50 times and okay, well, it's time to buy a new one. Same thing if you have a tool, if you're in the trades, right? Either a carpenter, electrician, you have certain tools, you want to use them as much as you can. So like in that same sense, it only makes sense for companies wanting to reuse the same mold as much as they can to get the most money they can. I mean, it just only makes sense, right? So until they start degrading or it's time, get the most use of it as you can. It just makes financial sense to me. So I see it that way as far as that, right? You have those assets, you have those resources. Why not just continue to reuse them until, you can't anymore?
Agreed.
And so we see this across, I mentioned this in that How You Figure video, all major companies, I think, for the most part, or most of them, are susceptible to doing variants. Again, Chris, this in the 1/12 world, right? Marvel Legends, Black Series, they have variants of some kind. A lot of the main manufacturers do this, right? They just kind of repaint them, put them out, or a different accessory, put them out, and they continue making money. And I personally don't see anything wrong with that. And other people do, and they're like, well, why are they doing this? So, that's just my take on that. And so,
That's
then
just
others.
the differential though between the collector side versus the business side, right?
That's true.
It's like two rivers that run adjacent to each other, but they have very different goals. And collector goals, like we want things that are limited, exclusive, feel like one-offs, feel like they're rare, and businesses want to continue to make money so that they can continue to give us more things that we think that we want.
Exactly. Yeah. And then to Wellington's point, you brought up, and I think this is a good figure, things or variants like this, right, to put on limited, because they may not sell well if they made them, mass produced to larger quantity. And it's usually the case, right? They usually have exclusives, the variants, like Chris was mentioning earlier, or like you mentioned, Ben, your Shadow Trooper variant exclusive, right? So, I mean, it's just, make them limited. And so that, those are, that just makes sense. Whereas new figures, a lot of people are saying, hey, give us something new. Why giving us this, spend that time to get something new? And that's obviously a risky thing, right? And that kind of goes to what I was saying about reusing the molds. Well, then if they make a new figure, they have to make a new mold or a new sculpt for something, and that costs more money, right? So then we'll have to pay more than what this figure would have cost, or any other similar figure, right? It just costs more money, more time, more resources. Good example is that Mech Strike, Black Panther. That's a new figure. I actually liked it. I thought that was cool, but it seems like a new mold. I don't think Hot Toys has reused that before, but not a lot of people were just shitting on that one too. It's just like, well, that's not what we wanted. That's not what we meant when we say new. We want something else. And so there's a lot of figures that are like that, like, hey, we want something new, you get something new. Well, that's not what we meant by new, because there's those League of Legends figures. Those are new. Another thing I can think of that are still talking about sitting, is that, they were coming out with all these Ahsoka figures, Hot Toys coming out all these Ahsoka figures and just killing it. And they were all awesome. And then, the people were saying, where's Balin and Shin? Where's Balin and Shin? And, those come out, and I was expecting those to sell out, but surprisingly, they're still readily available, everywhere. And so, people were clamoring and wanting those. So I don't know if that's just because Hot Toys plans on making a lot of them. And maybe that's why they're still available, but in general, like a lot of the Ahsoka figures are still readily available, right? They're not really sold out. Maybe one or two, correct me if I'm wrong there in the chat or in the comments, but so it's kind of right. It's kind of hard as a business. So you gotta, which figures should we make limited? Which ones should we make new? Chris, using you as an example, congratulations, by the way, on your first Hot Toy. I saw that figure of Dark Empire, right? Dark Empire Luke.
Yeah, but that's a divisive one, even in this crowd, man. But it's about the source material for me. But yeah, it's the only one so far.
Yeah, so that's one I think should have been limited in my opinion, just because not a lot of people know about that one, and I think that's one that's going to sit as well. And so that's a good example that I can take away. But congrats on you for getting that one. But yeah, not a lot of people know that one. There's other variations of Luke out there that people can get, and so yeah, it's just again, it's just interesting. Right? It's that balance. They have to kind of decide which ones are going to sell, which ones aren't. It's just tough.
Yeah,
long-winded answer, sorry, but yeah.
No, great thoughts, dude. Great thoughts. I'm glad you had a chance to get it out of your system so you can sleep tonight specifically. No, yes, it's out there. All great points. All jokes aside, that was awesome, because I totally agree. I think, just as a collector community, we have to remember that companies like Hot Toys want to condition us for sales, right? There was a time, and we've talked about this in the past, there was a time where $285 for a figure was an outrageous cost. And then, they bumped that figure price up to 300, 365 in that range. And people were like, oh my God, that's outrageous. And then when they dialed it back down to 285, it was like, okay, that's not too bad. That's kind of reasonable. And then, within the last year, we had seen a lot of the collector community and YouTube community talking about, well, wait on figures. Don't PO, no PO, right? Like how people were getting shirts made and everything. And companies like Hot Toys were like, okay, if you think that's what you'd like to do, that's fine. And now we're going to give you this tidal wave of figures that have things like exclusive on it or limited runs, right? What's the best way to make us buy again? To make us think we're going to miss it. And if we think we're going to miss it, we'll put ourselves in the queue. Because like I said about queues earlier, queue systems are like lotteries. And who doesn't like winning a little lottery?
Yeah.
So most of us are going to jump in the queue just to see if, hey, maybe we can get one, right? And a lot of us don't even get it once we get there. We just wanted to see if we could, which is interesting. But then there are folks like me who might have done the no-po on certain figures that have come out over the last little while, like God Loki, or even Jack Sparrow. I might have just waited to put it in the basket. I think I would have eventually bought it, but I didn't need it like day one. But then seeing that there was limited amounts of those on things like Artisan put me in the queue. When I didn't win the queue, I then immediately bought the standard version because I was already there. Screw it. I'm here. My wallet's in my hand. I'm just going to buy it anyways. So Hot Toys is, effectively, and the companies that distribute them have effectively been able to course correct us all with conditioning to not only go back to buying and day one pre-ordering, but to make us all stand in line for things like Artisan, which we haven't even got in hand yet, to then watch most of us still buy the standard. So interesting thinking there for sure, Feezy, when it comes to business strategy versus, again, the strategy of us collectors who, just want some cool stuff in our collections and celebrate that. So
yeah, for sure. And I forgot to say, this one I do like. I am picking this one up. I was fortunate to get this one as well. I'm usually one who kind of goes outside of the box and gets figures that a lot of people like. I know this is not a good example because a lot of people like this one, but in general, just variants I personally like. And so I like that, like Lewis is saying, two options here, right? I plan on doing, at one point doing the whole Maul DeLorean option, where having this paired with it. And when I get Darth Maul, granted, it's going to be the 2.0 from the Phantom Menace, but still, I'll have those, flanked on either side. That's going to be a badass look. And then if I want to switch it up, I can throw on the Obi-Wan here and the saber, man. It just looks badass. You hear with that saber and that red Mando armor, it just looks sweet, man. I love the options. I'm all about the options.
But I feel for the folks who missed it, unfortunately, as well. So
yeah.
Way she goes. Let's move on. We got one final topic. We still have just over 60 people watching live. Again, thanks for spending your Sunday afternoon with us, guys. I definitely appreciate you. I know all the panel here does as well. Especially a big thanks to these guys because they take their time out of the Sunday to help me put on a good show and give me people to talk to. So you don't have to watch me talk to myself in the computer screen. I actually have Dean the Dream's picture up here, right here, like where my camera is. So whenever I'm trying to remember to look at the camera, I'm actually looking at Dean's face. Love to see it. But let's move on here, guys. And it's actually Dean with devil horns, by the way. It's a great CW sticker. Ron Weasley has been put up from Inart. And I gotta say, holy shit, that looks like Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. Like, wow. The likeness is amazing. The cheeky little smile that they've given this kid is awesome. Like, they did a great job on this. Now, I guess my criticism with regards to the Harry Potter line is not that Harry Potter is not popular. Let's be honest. It's a worldwide phenomenon. It still sells books. It still sells out events. Harry Potter World at Disney or wherever it's called there, like, is sold out 99% of the time, it feels like, if you ever want to go there. Like, Harry Potter is very popular. But is it popular enough to put it in 1/6 scale in your collection? And I would argue, I'm surprised that it is. I'm surprised that it's got the revenue backing that it has for 6 scale community. Now, there really are no collectibles out there that are even close to as good in terms of the Harry Potter figures that we're seeing here from Inart. The Harry Potter figure himself looked really good. I liked the backdrop that he came with as well. Ron Weasley here is the same way. They've got kind of the rooted version of that deluxe version as well as the standard version. Honestly, for the standard hair, I think that looks amazing in terms of the sculpting. They've done a really freaking good job there. Multiple looks, and I like that with Inart, they give you a diorama display that you might actually want to use. It's got depth, it's got character, it's got different texturing. Like, it brings a display to life. And if you're going to go in on the Harry Potter line, all three of these displays connect together to make one big kind of Hogwarts backdrop display. So that's really cool. But do I actually need Harry Potter figures? For me, the answer is actually no. I have so many other things that I love and want to collect in life. And while these are astounding, I would still rather, I think, put my money into the Lord of the Rings line, or Batman, or the Superman that they've got coming, or, you know, pretty much anything else. I liked the Harry Potter films. I even enjoyed the books. I actually liked the books more than the films themselves. But for me, it's not something that I feel the desire to collect. Now, last thing before I go to the panel here, I took a look at my analytics on my YouTube channel, because in my analytics, it shows basically that on my live streams and on my video content, I have 100% male audience, a 100%. But shorts, for example, have a 50-50 split. So I would still argue that there is a huge community of male collectors who love Harry Potter, that grew up on it, and maybe they'd want to collect this, 100%. I also think it's very heavily weighted in the female audience, and a lot of females out there would love to collect Harry Potter. And this might actually bring that audience into the 1/6 scale community, or at least that would be my hope. So while I haven't seen the numbers from Inart, I have no idea how well these will officially sell. I heard rumors that the Harry Potter didn't do great, but Ron, you can't have Ron without Harry, and I don't think you can have Hermione without Harry and Ron. So I feel like the three of them kind of go together, or they don't. There's also other films from Harry Potter that they could reference. So maybe this wasn't your favorite version of these characters. I wonder if these are successful, if we'll ever get others, or if this is kind of one and done from Inart and they'll move on to the next line. So lots of thoughts there, lots of kind of verbal diarrhea at you guys, but I wanted to kind of give you all that in terms of context. Overall, I do think that these look amazing. I like the standard version just for what it is and the sculpted look. If you don't want to commit to the real estate, like I talked about with the Batman Armory, if you don't want to, commit to that real estate, then I think this is a great option. Or the deluxe version also looks phenomenal with everything that it comes with. So Chris, I'll go to you first. Is there, like, in terms of demand, market demand, figure demand, 6 scale demand, character demand, what do you like? How do you gauge that demand for Harry Potter lines? Maybe I'm completely out to lunch. Tell me if I'm wrong. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's some stuff that gets 1/6 representation from Hot Toys that doesn't come anywhere near like the level of iconic that these three characters are. It's definitely not for me, but I mean, like, there's like 7 movies or something and a theme park in a couple places in the world. Like, that's all you need to know to realize that fan base exists. I think it looks great, and I think you could draw the line at the trio there, and you'd have a really nice display piece without getting out of hand. Like, you don't need 6 versions of him like Obi-Wan, you know what I mean? Like, maybe there's kid trio and like teenage trio if you want to get real extra, but I think there's definitely a market for people who want all 3 of these leads. And I wonder if they realize they switched the bases on that 2-shot there because the names are reversed. But
oh, that's a good catch. I didn't notice that.
I don't know, but I guess they show it in the other one. But did the Harry come with like the same sort of room?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you put them all together, it's like one hallway almost in Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's cool, and it gives it a little more presence because they're short, obviously. So I mean, I'm in favor of it. I believe there's a market. I don't know if we have real data on if the Harry did badly, but I'd be surprised if it was a disaster if they're doing these.
That's true. Very good point. I really hate the way Hermione's legs look on the back here. I mean, in terms of doll legs, it looks like she's wearing prosthetic legs, which is very, very strange. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever have Hermione face towards the back of my display, though, either. So is it something that matters? But for all the, criticism we gave that Harley Quinn with the capped knees and the stockings back then with the Suicide Squad, I mean, like, that's really unsightly. Lewis, what are your thoughts on Harry Potter just overall? Are you a fan? Is that something you'd want to still collect from or not? How do you gauge the market strength of this release?
I'm not the biggest fan of Harry Potter, not because I think it's bad. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fantasy type genre guy, and that may be because maybe I'm a guy. I don't know. It's interesting that you bring up the demographics and you have 100% male audience and you're not into maybe Harry Potter as much either. My wife loves it. She loves magic. She loves fantasy. I do like Lord of the Rings, but again, I have no Lord of the Rings in my collection. I'll easily take Lord of the Rings over Harry Potter. but to me that falls under the fantasy genre. And yeah, I obviously love Star Wars. I'm a sci-fi collector and fiction in general, but not to say that Harry Potter doesn't belong up there in pop culture and some of the best films in cinematic history. I just never got into it, and I think these are great representations. And I think, like Star Wars, you have your different versions, right? Do you want your A New Hope Luke? Is that the iconic Luke for you, or is it Bespin, or is it Return of the Jedi? I have to have them all. So, like Chris said, I'm not the collector for this that needs to have all versions of the three trios, but somebody is, and hopefully Inart is really securing that collector. I think it's smart that you have to have all three to ultimately put this room together. That's a great marketing strategy. I would do that personally if I was a big a fan of them, but thankfully I'm not, because this line can go super deep, just like Star Wars, because of how many films and versions there are, and I'm sure variants as well.
Totally.
But I think they're great figures. I think they'll do well, but is it DC and Marvel, Star Wars well? Probably not. But it could introduce the other fan base that is used to smaller, lesser collectibles and finally make the jump, right? So hopefully they do well to move on to the other versions of the characters. I know my buddy would have loved to get Harry and all two or all three of them really, but he likes the later films because
Makes sense.
that's just what
Get
he
a little
relates
darker.
to.
They're just
Yeah,
for sure.
and they're older, and I know there's people out there that refuse to get kid figures. That's a whole nother subject. I don't care having kids myself, but I think they're great. Inart's doing amazing work. I have Inart and have some other characters on order. I want to see what they plan in future years, because if they're going to pull a Hot Toys and they're going to make another Joker variant or another, other character variant, that's going to put people like myself off personally. So
Makes sense.
I don't
True.
think they should blow their load in the very beginning with these iconic characters.
It's called Nut on
They
the show.
have-
Just putting it out there.
Yep. Thank you. They shouldn't really, but we'll see. And if they continue with the licenses that they have, there's a lot of characters that they can choose from. If you are a cinema collector, I think just having Harry would be enough. But yeah, hopefully this goes well for them. Not for me personally.
That's a good point. If you're a cinema collector, the Harry would probably be enough. I actually agree with that. Even though the three of them are obviously the kind of the trio of the film. Honestly, the trio also pairs really well with a Hagrid. But, of the three panelists that have talked so far, none of us are getting these figures. So why would they even make a Hagrid at this point? It wouldn't make sense. I agree. In terms of cinema representation, a Harry probably would be enough for most people. This puts people into that, collection territory. And I think actually Ryan mentioned this earlier. Yeah, perfect point. These Harry Potter figures look fantastic, but I just don't know if they're $2,000 love it kind of fantastic enough to justify the trio of deluxe wizards. Totally great point, because you have to think about that investment. And once they're available, it's kind of hard to not choose to buy it if you love the film, if you love the representation and all of those things. But as I said, out of the four of us so far, 75% of our panel isn't going to purchase these releases. So why even make the effort to buy any more? And not to say that our little panel represents the whole community, because I'm confident that I'm going to get comments later that say, I'm buying this, Ben, you're crazy. But honestly, every collector I've talked to has said, it's amazing, but probably not. Not unless they're a reviewer or something along those lines. To your point about collectors not wanting to buy kids, I mean, I think it's up to you, your own collection. It's up to you how you view it. I think for the most part, if you make it weird, then it's weird. If you see it that way, then it is. But why do you see it that way? Why is that the case? I collect female characters. They're not sex toys. They're artistic representations of characters that I want to collect because I liked their their portrayal in the movie or the show or whatever they come from, right? These are the same way. These are figures that represent iconic film characters. It doesn't matter that they're kids. Like, if you make it weird, then it's weird. So don't make it weird,
100%.
right? It gives it, when I tell people that I collect toys, with people that are non-collectors, they initially go, huh, that seems weird, until I tell them about the art behind it and all of the stuff that goes into this, like this workmanship. And then people go, oh, okay, yeah, crazy. Okay, that's awesome then, right? If you make it weird, it's weird. So don't make it weird. Peasy, what are your thoughts there on Harry Potter, making it weird, all of the things? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny. So I've heard that from multiple collectors and people in the community. And I mean, I see that argument, but it's just, it's I think it's inherent more if you're a parent. I didn't mean to rhyme there. I'm not trying to spit rhymes here, but it's just like, because I have kids and I don't know, for me.
I don't have kids. That is a caveat. Sure, maybe.
Yeah, so I'm not intentionally trying to make it weird. I'm trying to like put that out of my head. But yeah, just like having kid figures in my collection, it does seem weird. And I'm not trying to make it weird. It's just, I mean, I think it's just because I'm a parent, and so that kind of adds in the back of my head. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe a protective nature too.
Yeah, I think it's more of that.
protective.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's more of that. But that aside, I think the Ron looks great. I can't remember what the Harry looks like. I think the Harry looks great. But yeah, man, this is great. That's cool that he comes with the sorting hat. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. The ones I'm selective in the movies I do like. I liked more of the later ones when they're older. And having said that, if they were to make a Voldemort for sure, and a Sirius Black, a Gary Oldman, those two I would get, which is funny because, again, going outside of the box and collecting, I'm not saying I'm gonna get a Harry Potter. I'm getting these other characters because I think those are just badass characters, and so I would collect those over the main trio. And if I were to get one of the three, it would definitely be Harry. And I agree with Lewis there that as a film lover, a lover of film and entertainment media, I would just need to get Harry to represent the film. So, but I personally don't need to, just because like I said, I'm not a hardcore fan. I'm very selective. And so I would get those two and just say, hey, these are my Harry Potter figures here, the Voldemort and Sirius Black. But, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, people say, hey, you can't have Harry without Hermione. You can't have Hermione without Ron. And last I looked, this is, I think, still available at most places, right? Most retailers. Like, I think is this the first Inart figure that hasn't sold out, like, quickly? Or am I mistaken on that one?
I'm not too sure on the analytics on that side, but
okay,
it is sitting longer than I would think, potentially.
Right.
Unless there's a window, because I know Inart usually has kind of a window time for pre-order, so I don't know.
Yeah, let me know in the chat. Yeah, because like I can't. I don't have any Inart figures, right? Because there hasn't been one where, going back to what some people were saying in the chat, like I don't feel like it's justified to pay that much for this figure, or just figures from Inart in general. Like, I'm not looking for that high quality premium feel. I don't need die cast and wood materials and things like that. I'm cool with paying a little less and just having that representation. I don't need to spend that extra money for that. So I don't have any art figures, so I'm kind of neutral on this one. But just as a collector in general, my thoughts are just, people say, hey, we could use a Ron, but I think that's like a vocal minority, because the Ron's here, so if it doesn't sell well, what's that telling Inart then, right? If it's just kind of sitting there. But I mean, I know it's still early. It could sell out later on. What's time will tell. That's just something I was thinking about. Like, if this just continues to sit, what does that tell Inart? Like, hey, well, are these side characters? Should we make these in the future? If some people will buy them, but are they going to sell as well as we planned on it? And they have to make their money back, obviously, going back to the production and the business side of things. So
totally,
yeah, it's interesting. It does look great though. It does look good.
It's wild, honestly. Like, the likeness is amazing. I like both versions quite a lot, just on the screen here. Derek Maximus says here, I bet most Star Wars collectors would buy an Episode 1 Anakin Hot Toys figure. And Clinton Martin asks, what about young Ahsoka? And I think that's also, the two great points that kind of correlate with each other, right? It's weird to me when people say it would be weird to collect Harry Potter line, but I'd love to see an Anakin from Episode 1. Like, why? What's the difference then at that point? Again, it's a representation of a character you love from a film franchise that resonates with you. I think the majority of the folks in our chat right now, as well as our panelists, we're all kind of saying the same thing. This looks amazing. It's just not for me. I liked Harry Potter. I just don't want to spend $2,000 on a collection for it.
Yeah.
Like and I'm happy to X-Men Supreme's point here. Very grateful I'm not a Harry Potter fan in the same vein because these prototypes do look amazing, and so it would be very hard to say no. Even as I said, even Lord of the Rings is almost there for me in the same vein. I loved Lord of the Rings. I think I like Lord of the Rings more than I like Harry Potter, but even that line is one hell of an investment, right? I mean, we only have Gandalf so far, and they've shown Aragorn, but wow, do those figures look amazing. And so if the rest come out, just as good, that is one hell of an investment. Am I that bought in? Am I that big of a fan of that franchise to spend the money? It's something that I have to ask myself every single day, because when we surround each other, like, almost everybody on our chat right now, we've had anywhere between 60 to 75 people watching all day here. I feel like I see you guys in every single chat we're in. Thank you for being here. You guys have become friends. You guys have become family. When we talk about the collector community, you folks are the folks. And honestly, the 700 people that'll watch over the next couple of days that just couldn't tune in live, right? Those people we see all the time, but it means that we talk to each other all the time. We talk about the stuff that we think is cool all the time. And it's hard to actually say, nope, not buying this one. I'm in a group chat with Marco. I love Marco16Fix. He posted the other day, how many of you guys got all of the Star Wars drops today? And I was like, I didn't get any of them. None. It's hard when you're in a collector group community like that, where I have friends that do this stuff even on their YouTubes. They're professional on their channels. And I gotta be the one that admits, nope, not for me. So I think that's something that if I have to do it and I struggle with sometimes, I know that other collectors will feel that way potentially over time. But guys, that is the show for today. If you're a channel member, stick around until the end of the show here so you guys can see the new way that we're going to roll the credits for everybody. These are all our Tough Nut Crew channel members. I'm going to quickly shout you guys out 100%. Alvin J, Collecting Weekly, Money Mendez, 6 Scale Mafia, Katera, Feezy's Figures, King Dingaling, Sis Scale Collector, Paul Schreiber, The Batman, The Movie Canon, 1 6-Figure Focus, SpongeBob Square Balls, The underscore Empire Strikes, Peter Cass, Ryan Smith, Collector Joey, Sam Gist, 14 Wellington, Jose G. Hernandez, 12-Inch Moose Stream, Collection Obsession, Blur Dad Life, Danny Spotchka, Rachel Miller, Honest Hansel, Action in the Box, Figurecraft, Neilerific, Action Figure Academy, X-Men Supreme, Don Maton, Kenneth Jacobson, Cylon, Adrian Cervantes, Christian Cooper, Eclectic Collector, Casual Nerd Problems, Akira, JB, Your Majesty 3, Justin, Low-Key Collector, TX Boy 210, Razgard, Valkyrie Magnus, Alex Serrato. Guys, thank you for being great channel members. I appreciate you guys. And anybody who is not a member, that's totally cool too. I just appreciate the fact that you guys are watching the show and having fun getting nuts with us week over week. If you decide to take the plunge and become a tough nut, the channel link is in the description there in the comments for you guys, okay? In terms of my panelists here, thank you boys for being here with me today. Pop Culture Relics. Lewis, what do you got coming up on the channel, good sir, that we can look forward to from you? And again, thanks for being here today, bud.
Well, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure, and appreciate Chris and Jay for having great conversations too. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully getting that video room tour. I'll be working with Philly Figurecraft to get that going. I pretty much blew my nut with my budget, and it's not even halfway through the year. But in any event, I think I've slowed down for a bit, and these artisans and limited editions coming out next year, probably the year after, that's fine. They need to slow down. But I think I may be doing a stream with Gio over at the movie channel, so hopefully we'll get that going in the near future. Got Comic-Con coming up, just barely over 2 months away. Excited for that. So, just lurking, happy to go on anyone's stream anytime you want an extra body in there who will geek out for Star Wars and Nolan verse. By all means, reach out anytime. So I appreciate you having me, and again, just being able to shoot my thoughts out there publicly, of course.
Absolutely. Well said, good sir. Definitely go and check out Lewis's channel there. Awesome stuff over there for sure. And again, dude, thank you for being here today. Really quick before I go to the next panel here, 12-inch Moose Stream says, it's over. Why did they delete the last stream? And I think that this is hopefully in relation to that question. So I'll quickly address that, and I forgot to earlier. Last week, it was Mother's Day. We had Dean the Dream Martin on, and who else? I forget who else was on with me now. No, Figurecraft. Jeez, sorry, Figurecraft. We had Figurecraft and Dean on with me. Great show. Had lots of fun. But it was Mother's Day, and I started the stream with the Lonely Island song. I can't. It's not Mother's Day, but it's something along those lines. It's pretty dirty. But I'd cut the song up purposely so that I'd only play about 15 seconds of it and then jump into the intro. But when I tried to make it work, it didn't work with sound and all of that. But what ended up happening was it showed the video for longer than 15 seconds. And so NBC struck the video and the live stream and essentially blocked the live stream from all YouTube viewers. Like, you couldn't even watch it at all. So I ended up deleting it. So if you watched it live, you got to see the show. If you didn't, it's gone forever. I don't have the ability to bring it back at this point. So unfortunately, there's your answer, Moose. Hopefully you got to see the show last week. And we also had Alvin J give us a $1.99 super chat. Good sir, thank you always for being so generous. I definitely appreciate you. This is for you, good sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, good sir. We appreciate you. Now, Feezy, from Feezy's Figures over on YouTube, good sir. Thanks for coming back. Again, humbled by your presence. Always appreciate your takes. And now you can sleep at night tonight because you got that Star Wars stuff off your chest. Feeling good. What's coming up on your channel, buddy, that we can look forward to?
Yeah, first, thanks again for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come on, and I always feel privileged to come on and when you have me on. And, for those of you that don't know, I don't really talk a lot of Hot Toys figures and the main stuff. I usually talk about 1/6 scale figures outside of that and some 12 scale. And so your stream, Ben, and a couple others, and shout out to Beam. I use that as my outlet to discuss Hot Toys and things to give my takes on that. So appreciate you giving me that opportunity to do that here. So thanks again for having me. Lewis, it was good to finally stream with you. Hopefully it's not the last. Chris, always a pleasure. Always look forward to your Star Wars takes. I know you usually go against the grain on those. So I always look forward to your thoughts and your opinions on that stuff, man. But yeah, thank you all in the chat. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for having me. As of now, I don't have anything planned. For those of you who usually watch my channel, my streams, the Figure Lowdown, I don't have a set schedule. I kind of go, when I kind of feel like doing it, just because I don't want to make it feel like work, and so I kind of do it when there's a bunch of figures that I want to discuss, right? So typically around every 2 weeks or so, but I would just say, check out the channel, of course, subscribe just so you can get caught up on notifications. But I usually put also notifications on my Instagram and my Facebook when I'm going to do a show. So just check those out. Also, you can look for those, and I'll post up when I'm going to have a show. I mentioned the How You Figure streams I do earlier in the show. So sometimes I do those on a particular topic, not necessarily focused on figures, but just an aspect of collecting, some sort of topic. And so I mentioned the variant versus cash grabs. I did a 2023 Hot Toys recap recently. So things like that, right? Just kind of certain topics that I go over. So 2 different streams. So yeah, check those out. Appreciate you all for any support, and appreciate all your time, man. And thanks again.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much for coming back in. Definitely appreciate you here, as always, like I said before. Definitely please go and check out Feezy's Figures. His live streams are awesome. He also has a great group chat going on as well, that if you want to talk figures every day. I am not nearly as involved in those chats as I wish I could be. I'm so busy, and Marco makes fun of me all the time. He's like, "Oh, Ben's so busy," but then he's making this or that content. I'm like, I get it, but there's only so many hours in the day. But also really fun just to be part of that show and community. So definitely check him out over there for sure.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
12-inch. Just so you know, I asked Mafia to potentially join in today or any future Sunday if he's interested, because he's one of our channel members as well, and he was in the middle of revamping his entire display. And in fact, he sent me a really cool picture that I won't share because he'll probably want to share it on his own terms. But stay tuned, Mafia. It should be back, I'm sure, in his normal slots this coming week. Just to plug him there as well. That sounds dirty. Pause. With that said, Chris, Vintage Rebellion podcast, back again. Lots of Star Wars takes. Probably the hottest takes of the day. Kept it spicy, but also honest, and I appreciate that, good sir. Anything coming up for you that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I was thinking not that much, but it's actually too much. So if you like the vintage Star Wars collectibles, like the Kenner side of things, there's a new episode of the Vintage Rebellion podcast that'll be dropping probably on Wednesday, and those are nuts. I'm not a host on that. I'm more on the producing side of things, but that's like 3 or 4 hours of vintage Star Wars related content per podcast, which is nuts. And like we were saying earlier, if you want to hear my interview with Roger Christian, you can check out the Knights of Vader podcast. Those are both audio only. And on Collecting Weekly channel, you can see me every other Thursday on Small Talk. We did one last week. And this Thursday, on a new show with Classy Thomas. So if you follow Collecting Weekly, you're going to see something new on Thursday with me and Classy Thomas.
Classy Thomas. I always classing up the stream, even when he's not here. You love to see it. And speaking of classy, Chris, you brought it. Thanks, buddy, for being here again. I always appreciate you. Please let me know every week that you're available, because I enjoy your takes, of course. And that goes for all three of you here on the panel and any of my other esteemed panelists that I've had in the past. Keep me posted. We want to have new folks every week, some fresh faces to have fun and get nuts with. Bob Dylan says here, I'm pretty sure Mafia won't stream with Canadians on principle. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. But we'll see. Maybe that's the case. But guys, of course, if you're watching live or watching on the replay, you're here on the Ben Thomas Show already. If you can, hit a like button on the way out the door if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't. I think we're just less than about 100 subs away from 6,000, which is wild. So thank you so much for all the support out there in the world and on our show week over week. It means a lot to me and to everybody here watching. But with that said, guys, let's stick around for the new final credit roll. We got a couple to play week over week, but this is the first time we're getting a chance to see it, so stick through that. Guys on the panel, thank you so much. Out there in the community, I love your faces. Jay, with that said, we got nuts. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Wow, what a great audience. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Where should I go? What should I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
It's gone. It's all gone.